When love is a deceitful trick, loyalty is the weapon. A wedding ring falls onto the marble floor, the metallic clang echoing like a death sentence. Elena Varelli stands in the opulent dining room, looking at the man she once called husband. Dante Ravelli has just admitted the harsh truth. He never loved her. This marriage was merely a power struggle. But what Dante doesn't know, in the secret safe in his private room, Elena has just found something that could destroy his entire empire. Watch to the end, hit like, and comment the city you're watching in, so I know how far this story has progressed. Now, let's step into a world where betrayal is the only language. The porcelain cup shattered against marble, sending shards skittering across the floor like scattered teeth. Elena's hand remained suspended in the air where the cup had been, fingers still curved around phantom weight. Coffee pooled dark between the broken pieces, spreading slow as blood. Across the table, Dante Ravelli didn't flinch. He cut into his steak with surgical precision, the knife scraping against bone china with a sound that made Elena's jaw clench. Morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, turning his salt and pepper hair silver, making him look like something carved from ice. "Did you hear me?" His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that preceded violence in other men, but in Dante it was just Tuesday. "I said, I never loved you." Elena's throat worked. She forced herself to breathe through her nose, slow and measured, the way her mother had taught her before her mother stopped teaching her anything at all. Before the accident, before everything. 5 years, she said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. 5 years of marriage, and you're telling me this over breakfast. Dante set down his fork with careful deliberation. "Would you have preferred I tell you over dinner?" "There's no good time for truth, Elena. You're an intelligent woman. You knew what this was." "Did I?" "You knew exactly what this was." He reached for his coffee, took a sip, watched her over the rim. His eyes were dark brown, almost black in certain light. She used to think they were beautiful. "Your father brokered the deal. I needed legitimacy. He needed protection. You were the transaction that sealed it." The word transaction hit her chest like a bullet. She kept her face blank, had learned that much at least during 5 years of being Dante Ravelli's wife. Never show weakness. Never show fear. Never show anything that could be used against you. "My father's been dead 3 years, she said. "Yes. Heart attack. Very convenient timing." Something in his tone made her spine straighten. "What does that mean?" Dante smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. It never did. "It means your usefulness was tied to his influence, Elena, and dead men have no influence." She wanted to throw something else. Wanted to scream, wanted to claw that expression off his face with her bare hands. Instead, she folded her napkin with neat, precise movements and set it beside her untouched plate. "Then why keep me around?" The question tasted like ash. "Why not just dispose of me? Isn't that what you do?" "Because I'm not a monster." He said it like he believed it, like the bodies buried under his empire weren't screaming evidence to the contrary. "You've been a good wife, quiet, obedient. You play your role well at functions. You don't ask questions." "I'm asking now." "Yes." Dante studied her, head tilted slightly. "You are." That's new. The dining room felt too big suddenly, too cold despite the Italian summer heat pressing against the windows. This room had been designed to intimidate. 20-foot ceilings, imported marble, a table that could seat 14 but usually held just 2. Every surface gleamed with the kind of wealth that came from other people's suffering. Elena pushed back from the table. The chair legs scraped against marble, loud in the silence. "I need air." "Sit down." It wasn't a request. Elena remained standing. Dante's jaw tightened, the first crack in his composure. "Elena, sit. Down." "Why? So you can explain more about how our entire life together was a lie? I think I've heard enough." She turned toward the door, heels clicking sharp against the floor. She made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. "Your father wasn't a good man." Elena froze, hand already on the doorframe. "He was worse than me," Dante continued, conversational now, like they were discussing the weather. "Did you know that? Everything you think you know about him, the legitimate businessman, the doting father, the pillar of the community, all of it was theater." "Shut up." "He killed my father." The world tilted. Elena gripped the door frame harder, feeling the polished wood dig into her palm. You're lying. I have proof. Dante stood, moving around the table with the kind of grace that came from a lifetime of violence. Would you like to see it? She should walk away, should run, should do anything except stand there, letting him pour poison in her ears. But her feet wouldn't move, her body betraying the careful control she'd maintained for 5 years. My father loved me, she said, hating how uncertain it sounded. I'm sure he did. In his way. Dante stopped a few feet from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Bergamot and something darker, something that reminded her of gun oil and expensive leather. But love doesn't erase what he was, what he did. Why are you telling me this? Because you ask questions. He reached out, fingers grazing her cheek. She jerked back and he smiled. And because it's time you understood the world you've been living in, the real world, not the fairy tale you've been clinging to. Elena's hands curled into fists at her sides. If my father killed yours, why would you marry me? Why would you— Keep your enemies closer, Dante finished. It's an old saying for a reason. The air left her lungs in a rush. You've been punishing me all this time, the coldness, the distance, treating me like furniture? No. His voice sharpened. I've been protecting you. If I'd wanted revenge, Elena, you'd have been dead the day we met. What I wanted was information, access, everything your father built, everything he hid, all those little secrets he kept locked away. I thought marriage to his daughter would eventually lead me to them. And did it? No, which means either you're an excellent actress or you genuinely don't know anything. He moved past her, heading toward his study. I'm leaning toward the latter. You're many things, Elena, but cunning isn't one of them. The insult should have stung. Instead, it settled over her like armor. If he thought she was simple, that was useful. If he thought she was ignorant, that was even better. Where are you going? She asked. I have business. Some of us work for a living. Your business is murder. Dante paused at the threshold of his study, looking back at her with something that might have been respect if she squinted hard enough. My business is power. Murder is just one tool among many. You should understand that better than most. You've benefited from it your entire life. Then he was gone, the study door clicking shut with quiet finality. Elena stood in the empty dining room, surrounded by broken porcelain and spreading coffee, and felt something inside her chest crack open. Not her heart, that had shattered years ago, piece by piece, every time Dante looked through her instead of at her. No, this was something deeper, something that had been sleeping, waiting, coiled tight behind her ribs. She walked through the house in a daze, past priceless paintings and sculptures, past the armed guards who pretended not to see her, past the housekeeper who watched her with knowing eyes. Maria. The old woman had been with the family since before Elena was born, had seen everything, knew everything, said nothing. But today, as Elena passed, Maria caught her wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone in her 70s. Your room, she whispered, behind the mirror. Your father left something. Elena stared at her. What are you talking about? Maria's eyes darted down the hallway, toward where one of Dante's men stood at his post. Not here. Go. Look. Then decide. She released Elena's wrist and shuffled away, humming something low and tuneless. Elena watched her go, heart hammering against her ribs. Behind the mirror, her father's study had been converted into a guest room after his death. Elena hadn't set foot in it since the funeral. Couldn't bear to see his books, his desk, his reading glasses still resting on the side table like he might come back for them any moment. But now she climbed the stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. The house was too quiet. It was always too quiet, like the marble and stone swallowed sound, swallowed life, left nothing but empty space and expensive silence. The guest room door opened smoothly, well-oiled hinges making no sound. Elena slipped inside and locked it behind her. The mirror hung where it always had, 6 feet tall and ornate, gilt frame probably worth more than most people made in a year. She studied her reflection. Dark hair pulled back severe, face pale, eyes too wide. She looked like a stranger. Or maybe she was finally seeing herself clearly for the first time. Behind the mirror, Elena ran her fingers along the frame's edge, searching for what? A button? A latch? Her father had been a careful man, meticulous in everything. If he'd hidden something here, it wouldn't be obvious. She found it in the lower right corner, a small indent in the decorative scrollwork, just deep enough for a fingertip. She pressed, and something clicked. The mirror swung outward on hidden hinges, revealing a safe set into the wall. It was old, the kind with a combination dial instead of a keypad. Elena stared at it, mind racing. Her birthday. She tried her birthday. Nothing. Her mother's birthday. Nothing. The date her father died. The safe opened with a smooth, well-maintained sound. Inside was a single leather-bound book and a thick manila envelope. Elena's hand shook as she pulled them out. The leather was worn smooth, the corners bent from handling. She opened it. Names. Hundreds of names, written in her father's neat, precise script. Next to each name were dates, amounts, sometimes just a single word. Deceased. Eliminated. Handled. Elena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, forced herself to keep reading. Page after page of transactions. Payments made. Services rendered. A ledger of corruption so vast and deep it made her stomach turn. Politicians, judges, police chiefs, business rivals who disappeared. Whistleblowers who suddenly went silent. And there, halfway through the book, underlined twice, Alessandro Ravelli, Dante's father. The entry was brief. September 15th, 2008, 500,000, car accident, handled. Elena's knees gave out. She hit the floor hard, the ledger falling from numb fingers. $500,000. That's what Dante's father's life had cost. That's what her father had paid to have him killed. The manila envelope lay where she'd dropped it. With shaking hands, she opened it. Photographs. Surveillance photos of the accident scene. Police reports marked confidential. Bank statements showing the payment trail. Witness statements that had been buried. Everything her father had kept. Everything that proved he'd orchestrated a murder and gotten away with it. And Dante had married her knowing all of this. The thought hit her like a physical blow. He'd known. From the very beginning, he'd known what her father was, what he'd done. And he'd still stood at that altar and promised to love and cherish her. Still took her to his bed. Still let her believe. Elena pressed her palms against her eyes, breathing hard. She couldn't cry. Wouldn't. Tears were a luxury she couldn't afford. Not now. Not when her entire world was revelating itself as constructed from lies and corpses. She gathered the ledger and envelope, shoving them into her bag with trembling hands. She didn't know what she was going to do with them, didn't have a plan, could barely think past the roaring in her ears. But instinct screamed at her to take them, hide them, keep them close. Maria was waiting in the hallway when Elena emerged, her weathered face unreadable. "You found it," she said. Not a question. "How long have you known?" Elena's voice came out rough. "Since the beginning, child. I worked for your father before you were born. I knew what he was." Maria's eyes were sad but steady. "And I know what your husband is. Two monsters who found each other and used you as their bridge. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Before today, would you have heard anything except lies and manipulation?" Maria shook her head. "You had to see it for yourself, had to feel it. Otherwise, you would have made excuses, found reasons to stay, convinced yourself love could fix what was never whole to begin with." Love. The word tasted like poison now. "What do I do?" Elena asked, hating the helplessness in her own voice. Maria stepped closer, lowering her voice to barely a whisper. "You run. You take what you found and you disappear. Tonight. Before he realizes what's missing. Before he understands that you're not the ignorant little wife he thinks you are. He'll find me. He finds everyone. Then you make sure you're someone else by the time he starts looking." Maria pressed something into Elena's hand, a small key. "Train station. Locker 247. Money, passport, everything you need to become a ghost. I've been preparing it for 2 years, waiting for the day you'd wake up." Elena stared at the key, then at Maria. "Why? Why help me?" The old woman's face softened. "Because I watched your mother break under the weight of your father's sins. Watched her smile fade year by year until she was nothing but a ghost in her own home. And when she finally had enough, when she finally threatened to leave and take you with her," Maria's voice caught. "Her accident wasn't an accident, child. Your father couldn't let her go. Couldn't let her take you away from him. The world tilted again. Elena gripped the wall for support. What? I can't prove it. He was too careful. But I know. I've always known. Maria's eyes glistened. I won't watch another woman I love die in this house. So you run, Elena. You run and you don't look back. A door slammed somewhere below. Dante's voice echoed up the stairs, calling her name. Maria pushed her gently. Go, pack light. Only what you can carry in one bag. Leave your phone, your jewelry, anything that can be traced. Become no one. Elena moved on autopilot, muscle memory taking over where thought failed. Her room, her closet. She grabbed clothes without looking at them, stuffed them into an overnight bag. Cash from her drawer. The ledger and envelope tucked carefully into an inside pocket. Her wedding ring caught the light as she moved. She stopped, staring at it. 5 years. 5 years of believing in something that never existed. She twisted it off her finger and set it on the nightstand. The skin beneath was pale, a perfect circle of absence. Dante's footsteps on the stairs now, getting closer. Elena grabbed her bag and headed for the servants' entrance, the narrow stairs that led down to the kitchen and out through the back. She'd never used them before. Wives of crime lords used the front door, the grand staircase, made entrances. But she wasn't a wife anymore. She was prey learning to hunt. The kitchen was empty, everyone carefully elsewhere, while the master of the house was in a mood. Elena slipped through it like smoke, out the back door, into the garden that had always felt more like a prison yard despite its manicured beauty. The walls were high, but not impossible. Years ago, as a teenager, she'd snuck out to meet friends, finding handholds in the old stone. Her body remembered the path, even if her mind had tried to forget there was ever a world outside these walls. She climbed, bag slung across her shoulders, fingers finding purchase, muscles screaming from disuse. Up and up until she could swing her legs over the top and drop down into the alley beyond. She landed hard, ankles jarring, but stayed upright. For a moment she just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the wall she'd just escaped. Then she ran. The streets of Rome blurred around her, tourists and locals, traffic and noise, the smell of espresso and exhaust. Normal life, continuing on while her world imploded. She kept moving, didn't slow down, couldn't afford to think about what she was doing or she'd lose her nerve. The train station was chaos, perfect, easy to disappear in crowds. She found locker 247 in a dim corner, hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries to get the key in. Inside, a new passport with her face and someone else's name, Sophia Martinelli. 50,000 euros in cash. A burner phone. A note in Maria's handwriting with a single address in Switzerland. Elena stared at the passport photo. The woman looking back at her had the same face, but different eyes. Harder eyes. Eyes that had seen the world for what it was and decided to survive anyway. She closed the locker and headed for the ticket counter. Where to? The clerk asked, bored. Elena's mind raced. Where could she go that Dante wouldn't think to look? What direction would he never expect? Anywhere, she said. Then catching herself, Geneva. Next train to Geneva. The clerk printed her ticket without comment. Just another woman going somewhere. Nothing special, nothing worth remembering. Elena paid in cash and walked toward the platform. She didn't look back. Couldn't afford to. Looking back was how people got caught, how they second-guessed, how they convinced themselves to return to comfortable cages. The train was already boarding. She found a seat in the back by the window where she could watch the platform. Old habits from a life she was shedding like dead skin. Her phone, her real phone, the one with Dante's tracking apps and monitoring software, sat heavy in her bag. She should destroy it. But part of her, some small stupid part, wanted him to know. Wanted him to understand that she wasn't the ignorant little wife anymore. Elena pulled out the phone and typed a single message. I know what you are. I know what he was. I know everything. She hit send before she could reconsider, then powered down the phone and shoved it in the trash receptacle near the bathroom. The train lurched into motion. Rome slid past the window, ancient buildings and modern traffic, the dome of St. Peter's in the distance, everything she'd ever known getting smaller and smaller. Elena pressed her forehead against the cool glass and tried to breathe. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Walked away from Dante Ravelli, from his empire, From the gilded cage she'd called home for 5 years. But the fear sat heavy in her chest because she knew with absolute certainty, that Dante wouldn't let her go. Couldn't. Not because he loved her, but because she'd taken something from him. Not just the ledger, though that was valuable enough. No, she'd taken something far more precious to a man like Dante. She'd taken his control. Her phone, the burner from the locker, buzzed. Unknown number. Elena stared at it, pulse hammering, thumb hovering over the answer button. She answered. Elena. Dante's voice was silk over steel. That was poorly done. Her mouth went dry. How did you really think Maria was the only person in that house I own? He sounded almost disappointed. I've known about the locker for 6 months, the passport, the money, all of it. The train car suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. Elena looked around wildly but saw only other passengers reading papers, listening to music, living normal lives. If you knew, she forced out, why let me take it? Because I wanted to see if you would. A pause. I needed to know if you were more like your mother, weak, compliant, ultimately breakable, or more like your father. Now I know. Elena's hand tightened on the phone. What does that mean? It means the game just got interesting. She could hear the smile in his voice. Run, Elena. Run as far and fast as you can. But understand, when I find you, and I will find you, there won't be mercy. There won't be forgiveness. There will only be consequences. The line went dead. Elena sat frozen, phone still pressed to her ear, mind spinning. He'd let her go. Let her take everything, climb the wall, board the train, all of it theater, all of it part of some larger game she didn't understand. No, not theater. A test. And she'd passed. Or failed. She couldn't tell which. The train picked up speed, leaving Rome behind, heading north toward Switzerland and whatever waited there. Elena tucked the phone away and opened her bag, pulling out the ledger. Page by page, she began to read. Not skimming this time, but studying, memorizing, understanding the scope of what her father had built. The network of corruption, the bodies buried, the empire of silence and blood. And as she read, something shifted inside her. The fear was still there, sharp and present, but beneath it something else was growing, something cold and focused and utterly without mercy. Dante thought he was hunting her, thought he'd set her loose like prey, that she'd run scared until he was ready to end the game. But Elena had learned something in that marble dining room, in her father's hidden safe, in the moment she climbed over that wall. She'd learned that the world she'd lived in, the comfortable lies, the willful blindness, the pretense of normalcy, all of it had been preparation for this moment. Her father had been a monster. Her husband was a monster. And monsters had taught her their language. She flipped to the back of the ledger where blank pages waited, pulled out a pen, and began to write. Names. People who appeared in her father's ledger, people who were still alive, still in power, still benefiting from the empire her father had built. People who would do anything to keep these secrets buried. People who would be very interested to know that Dante Ravelli's wife had disappeared with proof of everything. Elena smiled, and it felt like breaking glass. Sharp, dangerous, final. Let him hunt her. She'd make sure he wasn't the only one tracking her scent. The train hurtled through the Italian countryside, carrying her toward a future she couldn't see. But for the first time in 5 years, maybe for the first time in her life, Elena felt something close to hope. Not hope for happiness, not hope for love or peace or any of the gentle things she'd once believed in. Hope for something far more dangerous. Revenge. The words settled into her bones like a promise, like prayer, like the only truth she had left. Outside the window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. Elena watched it disappear beyond the horizon and thought about beginnings, about how sometimes you had to burn everything down to see what you were really made of, about how the best way to kill a monster was to become something worse. The train plunged into a tunnel, swallowing her in darkness. Elena didn't close her eyes, didn't flinch, just sat there in the black, holding a dead man's secrets, and planned her resurrection. When they emerged on the other side, she wasn't Elena Ravelli anymore. She was the ghost that would haunt Dante's empire until there was nothing left but ashes and screams. Geneva smelled like old money and newer lies. Elena stepped off the train into a wall of cold that cut through her thin jacket, reminding her she'd packed for survival, not comfort. The station was all glass and steel, modern architecture trying to erase centuries of secrets buried in Swiss bank vaults and numbered accounts. She moved through the crowd with her head down, just another traveler, nobody worth noticing. The burner phone in her pocket felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. She hadn't turned it on since Dante's call, hadn't dared, but she could feel it there. Waiting. The address Maria had given her led to a building in the old quarter, narrow streets that twisted back on themselves like a labyrinth designed to lose followers. Elena checked over her shoulder every few steps, scanning faces, looking for the telltale signs of surveillance. But everyone looked normal. Too normal. Which meant either she was paranoid or they were very good. She was betting on both. The building was unremarkable. Gray stone, shuttered windows, a door that had seen better decades. Elena climbed 3 flights of stairs that creaked under her weight, each sound making her flinch. The apartment was 3B. She knocked twice, paused, knocked once more. The pattern Maria had written on the note. Nothing happened. Elena knocked again, harder this time. Hello? I was told to come here. I need... The door opened 6 inches, held by a chain. A woman's face appeared in the gap. 50s, maybe? Sharp eyes that took Elena apart in 2 seconds flat. Name, the woman said. Not a question, a command. Sophia Martinelli. The lie came easier the second time. Real name. Elena's pulse kicked up. I don't know what you... Real name or I close this door, and you can explain to whoever's following you why you're standing in my hallway. Elena Varelli. It came out barely above a whisper. Maria sent me. The woman studied her for another long moment, then closed the door. Elena heard the chain rattle, and when the door opened again, it was all the way. The woman stepped back, gesturing her inside. The apartment was small but precise. Everything in its place, nothing wasted. The woman locked 3 separate deadbolts behind them and drew the curtains closed. Adrienne Laurent, she said, not offering her hand. Maria and I go back, way back. She said you might show up eventually, though I'll be honest, I didn't think it would be this soon. What does that mean? Adrienne moved to a small kitchen, put on a kettle without asking if Elena wanted tea. Means she's been planning your escape for 2 years, like she told you. What she didn't tell you is that she expected you to break a year ago. Maybe longer. The fact that you lasted this long in that house. She shook her head. Either you're tougher than you look, or more damaged than anyone should be. Elena set her bag down carefully, keeping it within reach. You know who I am, who my husband is. Everyone in this business knows Dante Ravelli. Adrienne pulled out 2 cups, dropped tea bags in both. And everyone knows what he does to people who cross him. So the real question is, why are you here instead of in a dozen pieces scattered across Rome? Because he doesn't know I have this. Elena pulled out the ledger, set it on the small table between them. Adrienne's eyes widened fractionally. Is that my father's insurance policy? Names, dates, payments, proof of everything. Elena's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table, forced them still. Including proof that my father murdered Dante's father. The kettle screamed. Adrienne turned off the heat but didn't pour the water, just stood there staring at Elena like she'd grown a second head. You took that out of his house. Not a question. You stole the one thing that could destroy him and you just walked out. He let me go. He knew about the passport, the money, all of it. He called me on the train. Elena's voice was steady now, cold. He said it was a test, said the game just got interesting. Adrienne finally poured the tea, her movements mechanical. Then you're not running from him. You're running towards something he wants to see happen. What do you mean? I mean, Dante Ravelli is a lot of things, but stupid isn't one of them. If he lets you take that ledger, it's because he wants you to have it, wants to see what you'll do with it. Adrienne slid a cup across to Elena. Question is, what does he gain from letting his wife escape with evidence that could land him in prison for the rest of his life? Elena wrapped her hands around the cup, letting the heat burn into her palms. He said he wanted to know if I was like my mother or my father. And what's the difference? My mother was weak. She broke. Elena's throat closed up. He said her accident wasn't an accident. that my father killed her because she tried to leave. Adrienne's face didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. Maria told you. You knew too. A lot of people knew. Nobody could prove it. Your father was very good at making things look natural. She took a sip of tea. Your mother was a good woman, kind. She didn't deserve what happened to her. And my father? Your father was a monster who convinced everyone he was a saint, the worst kind of monster because he made people love him while he destroyed them. Adrienne set down her cup. But that's not why you're here. You're not here to mourn. You're here to plan. Elena met her eyes. Maria said you could help me disappear. I can. I have contacts, safe houses, ways to move money without traces. I can make Elena Varelli cease to exist. Adrienne leaned forward. But that's not what you want, is it? That's not why you're clutching that ledger like a weapon. I want to destroy him. The words came out harsh, raw. I want to take everything Dante built and burn it to the ground. That's different from disappearing. I know. That's also suicide. You understand that, right? You go after Dante with this, he won't just kill you. He'll make it hurt. He'll make it last. He'll make sure every person you've ever cared about suffers before you do. Elena thought about Maria, about the old woman's weathered hands and sad eyes, about 5 years of cold distance and careful silence, about her mother's smile fading year by year until there was nothing left but a ghost. There's no one left to hurt, she said quietly. He already took everything. Adrienne studied her for a long moment, then reached into a drawer and pulled out a laptop. Then we'd better make sure his empire burns hot enough that he feels it. They worked through the night. Elena read names from the ledger while Adrienne typed, cross-referencing against databases Elena didn't know existed, building connections between her father's network and Dante's current operations. Here, Adrienne said around 3 a.m, turning the laptop so Elena could see. This is Dante's accountant, Marcus Delacroix. Handles all the legitimate business fronts, keeps the books clean, makes sure the money flows without raising flags. Elena studied the photo on screen. Middle-aged man, receding hairline, expensive suit. What about him? He appears in your father's ledger 3 times, always the same notation, insurance payment. Adrienne pulled up another window. I did some digging. Marcus's daughter disappeared 7 years ago. Kidnapped, never found, case went cold. My father took her. Probably. Or he knew who did and leveraged it. Either way, Marcus has been paying your father, and now Dante, to keep his daughter alive, or to keep believing she might be. Elena's stomach turned. That's okay. Why did this syndicate? That's how this world works. You find someone's pressure point and you squeeze until they do whatever you want. Adrienne closed the laptop. But it also means Marcus might be willing to help us. If we can prove his daughter is dead, if we can give him closure and freedom from Dante's control, he'd turn on him. Maybe. Or maybe he'd just stop protecting him. Either way, it's a crack in the foundation. Elena pulled out her phone, the burner, and stared at it. Dante called this number, which means he has it, which means he's tracking it. Yeah. Adrienne held out her hand. Give it here. Elena handed it over. Adrienne popped out the SIM card, snapped it in half, then did the same to the phone. You'll need a new one. Actually, you'll need several. Rotate them every few days. Never use the same number twice. How do you know all this? Adrienne's smile was sharp. Because I used to do what Dante does. Different city, different name, but same business. I got out before it killed me. Barely. She stood, moved to a closet, pulled out a box. These are clean phones. Untraceable. Take 3. Elena took them, added them to her bag. Why are you helping me? Because Maria asked, and because... Adrienne hesitated. Because I had a daughter once too. And men like your father, like Dante, they took her from me. Not the same way as Marcus, but gone is gone. Her voice went hard. So yeah, I'll help you burn his empire down, but you need to understand something first. What? Once you start this, there's no stopping, no changing your mind, no going back to that marble house and begging forgiveness. You'll be a target for the rest of your life, however long or short that turns out to be. Every person in that ledger, everyone who has something to lose if those secrets come out, they'll all want you dead. Adrienne's eyes were steel. Are you ready for that? Really ready? Elena thought about the porcelain cup shattering, about Dante's calm voice saying he never loved her, about 5 years of being furniture in her own life, about her mother's smile disappearing piece by piece until there was nothing left. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." "Then get some sleep. Tomorrow we start making phone calls." Elena lay on the small couch Adrienne offered, staring at the ceiling, and didn't sleep at all. Her mind spun with names and numbers, connections, and consequences. Somewhere out there Dante was awake too, probably in his study, probably drinking expensive scotch and planning his next move. Let him plan. Let him think he was still controlling the game. She'd show him what happened when furniture learned to fight back. Morning came gray and cold. Adrienne made coffee strong enough to strip paint, handed Elena a cup without comment. They sat at the small table, the ledger open between them like a battle plan. "We start with Marcus," Adrienne said. "If we can flip him, we get access to Dante's financial records, all of them, the legitimate fronts and the dirty money both." "How do we approach him? He's been under Dante's thumb for 7 years. Why would he trust us?" "We don't need trust. We need leverage." Adrienne pulled out one of the clean phones. "I'm going to call him, tell him we have information about his daughter, see if he bites. And if he tells Dante? Then we find out how far Dante's willing to go to keep you running." Adrienne dialed, put the phone on speaker. It rang 4 times. Then a man's voice, cautious. "Hello?" "Marcus Delacroix?" Adrienne's voice was all business. "You don't know me, but I know about your daughter, about what happened to her, about who took her." Silence. Then, barely audible. "Who is this?" "Someone who can give you answers. Someone who can end this. But I need something from you first." I can't." His voice cracked. "Whoever you are, you don't understand. They'll kill her if I—" "They already did, Marcus." Adrienne's voice was gentle, but firm. 7 years ago, 3 months after she disappeared, I'm sorry. The sound that came through the phone wasn't words. It was something deeper, rawer, the sound of a man's last hope dying. Elena's hands clenched into fists. She forced herself to breathe, to stay quiet, to let Adrienne handle this. "I can prove it," Adrienne continued. "I have documentation, photos, everything you need to know she's not suffering anymore. But Marcus, they've been lying to you for 7 years, bleeding you dry, controlling you, and for what? A ghost. How do I know you're not lying?" His voice was destroyed. "How do I know this isn't another trick? Because I'm offering you a way out. Help us, and we'll give you everything. The proof, the closure, and a chance to make the people who did this pay." Another long silence. Elena could hear him breathing, could almost feel his decision crystallizing across the distance. "What do you need?" he asked finally. Adrienne's eyes met Elena's. "Everything. Financial records, account numbers, shell companies, all of it. Every way Dante Ravelli moves money, we need to know about it." I can't just, Yes, you can. You've been keeping 2 sets of books for 7 years. I know how this works. You have copies somewhere safe, somewhere they can't find them. Insurance, in case Dante ever decided you knew too much. Adrienne leaned closer to the phone. "Give us the copies. Help us destroy him. And we'll give you back your daughter. Not alive, but at least you'll know. At least you can stop hoping and start grieving." The line went quiet for so long Elena thought he'd hung up. Then, "There's a cafe in Zurich, Bahnhofstrasse 47. Tomorrow, noon. Come alone." "We'll be there," Adrienne said, but the line was already dead. She set down the phone and looked at Elena. "You sure you want to do this? Once we meet with Marcus, once we get those files, Dante will know. He'll know you're not just running, you're fighting." Elena thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. "Good. Let him know." They took a train to Zurich the next morning, sitting in separate cars, never looking at each other, just 2 women traveling alone. Elena wore clothes Adrienne had given her, dark jeans, nondescript jacket, boots good for running. Her hair was tucked under a cap, her face bare of makeup. She looked nothing like the polished wife who'd sat across from Dante at breakfast 3 days ago. 3 days. It felt like a lifetime. The cafe was crowded, which was good. Harder to make a scene, harder to disappear someone when witnesses were everywhere. Elena spotted Marcus immediately. He looked exactly like his photo, except older, worn down by years of grief and lies. She slid into the seat across from him. Adrienne took the table behind, watching the door, watching the street, watching everything. Marcus stared at Elena like he was seeing a ghost. "You're her. You're his wife." "Not anymore." Elena pulled out a manila envelope. Not her father's, a new one Adrienne had prepared. "Everything you need to know about your daughter is in here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." His hands shook as he took it. He didn't open it, just held it against his chest like a child. Why? Why did they? Because they could. Because she was leverage. Because in their world, people aren't people. We're just tools. Elena's voice was hard. "Your daughter died because my father was a monster, and Dante kept lying to you because he's a monster too. But we can stop him. We can make sure he never does this to anyone else." Marcus opened the envelope with trembling fingers, pulled out the first photo. His face crumpled. Elena looked away, giving him privacy for his grief. Around them, the cafe hummed with normal life. People ordering coffee, laughing, checking their phones, none of them knowing they were sitting 10 feet from a man whose world was ending. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice was glass. "What do you need?" "Everything. Files, account numbers, names of everyone he pays, everyone who pays him, every secret you've been keeping." "He'll kill me." "He'll kill you anyway, eventually. You know too much." Elena leaned forward. "This way. At least you take him down with you. This way your daughter's death means something." It was cruel. She knew it was cruel. But cruelty was the only language these men understood, and she was learning to speak it fluently. Marcus pulled out a USB drive, set it on the table between them. "Everything's on here. Encrypted. The password is..." He wrote it on a napkin, slid it across. "May you do more damage with it than I ever could." Elena took the drive, pocketed it. "There's one more thing. I need you to stay quiet for 2 weeks. Don't tell Dante. Don't change your routine. Act like nothing happened." 2 weeks? That's all I'm asking. After that..." Elena stood. "After that, do whatever you want. Disappear, confess. I don't care. But give me 2 weeks to use this before he knows it's gone." Marcus looked at the photos spread on the table, at his daughter's face frozen in death. 2 weeks. Then I'm done with all of this." Elena left him there with his grief and his ghosts. Adrienne fell into step beside her as they exited onto the busy street. "We need to move," Adrienne said quietly. "I spotted 2 of Dante's men across the street. They haven't made us yet, but run." They ran. Through crowds, down alleys, across a tram intersection that nearly got them killed. Elena's lungs burned. Her legs screamed, but she didn't stop, couldn't stop. Behind them, shouts in Italian. Getting closer. Adrienne grabbed her arm, yanked her into a department store. They moved fast through displays of expensive clothes and perfume, out a side entrance, into another alley. A taxi was idling at the corner. Adrienne shoved Elena inside, climbed in after. "Drive," she snapped at the driver. "Anywhere. Just go." The taxi pulled into traffic. Elena looked back through the rear window, saw 2 men burst out of the alley, scanning the street. One of them pulled out a phone. "He knows," Elena said. "Dante knows we met with Marcus. Probably had him under surveillance. Probably has been watching him for years, just waiting for something like this." Adrienne was breathing hard. "Which means we're blown. Which means Geneva isn't safe anymore." "Nowhere's safe." "True, but some places are less dangerous than others." Adrienne told the driver to head for the airport. "We need to move fast, get those files decrypted, figure out what we're dealing with, start making our moves before Dante can consolidate his defenses." Elena pulled out the USB drive, stared at it. Such a small thing, barely bigger than her thumb, but it held the blueprint of an empire built on blood and lies. She thought about calling Dante, thought about telling him exactly what she had, watching him panic, enjoying the fear in his voice for once. But no, not yet. Not until she'd used every byte of data on this drive to tear apart everything he'd built. The airport was chaos, perfect cover. They bought tickets to Paris using cash and fake names, went through security separately, met again at the gate. "Once we're in Paris," Adrienne said, "I know someone, tech specialist. He can decrypt those files in a few hours, tell us exactly what we're looking at." "Can we trust him?" "No, but he's greedy and I'm paying well, so he'll do the job before he betrays us." Adrienne smiled without humor. The trick is making sure we're gone before the betrayal happens. Their flight was called. Elena boarded with a dozen other passengers, found her seat, buckled in. Through the window, she could see Zurich spreading out below, all neat streets and clean money and secrets buried so deep they'd never see light. Except now they would. Now she'd make sure they did. The plane lifted off. Elena closed her eyes and felt the thrust of engines pushing her forward, up, away. Running, always running, but running with purpose now, running with weapons, running towards something instead of just away. Paris was rain and gray stone and a language Elena barely spoke. Adrienne's contact worked out of a small apartment in the Latin Quarter, all computers and empty energy drink cans, the smell of stale cigarettes and desperation. His name was Claude, and he looked at Elena like she was a math problem he couldn't solve. "This is encrypted military grade," he said, fingers flying across keyboards. "Whoever set this up knew what they were doing. This is going to take time." "How much time?" Elena asked. 12 hours? Maybe more?" "You have 6. Claude looked at Adrienne, who nodded. He swore in French and got to work. Elena and Adrienne waited in a cafe across the street, watching the building, drinking coffee that tasted like burned promises. Every person who walked past could be one of Dante's people. Every car that slowed could be a threat. Elena's new phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her hand hovered over it. She knew who it was before she answered. "Hello, Dante." "You met with Marcus Delacroix." His voice was calm, always so calm. "That was bold. You wanted to see what I'd do with the ledger. I'm showing you." "You're making mistakes." Not angry, almost proud. "Marcus talked to you for 15 minutes, gave you something, and now you're in Paris with the woman who used to run guns through Marseille. You're building an army, Elena. I'm impressed." Her blood ran cold. "You're tracking me." "I'm always tracking you. Did you really think I'd let you run wild without knowing where you were?" Pause. "The question is, what are you going to do with Marcus's files once you have them?" "Burn your empire to ash," Dante laughed. Actually laughed. "Good. That's good. You're learning." "Learning what?" "That mercy is weakness. That half measures get you killed. That if you're going to come for someone, you'd better make damn sure they don't get back up." His voice dropped. "But Elena, and listen carefully, you're not ready yet. You think you are. You think rage and stolen data make you dangerous, but you're still thinking like a victim, still reacting instead of planning, still running instead of hunting." "I'm hunting you." "No. You're running from me while throwing rocks over your shoulder. There's a difference." A pause. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get Marcus's files. You're going to find all my accounts, all my operations, all my pressure points. And then you're going to have a choice. Expose me to the authorities, knowing they're mostly bought and paid for anyway, or what? Or use what you find to take what's mine. Not destroy it. Take it. Build something from the ashes. Become what your father was. What I am. But better. Smarter." His voice was silk. "Become someone worthy of being my enemy." Elena's hands were shaking. "You're insane." "I'm honest. I always have been. You just weren't listening." Background noise on his end. An airplane engine. "I'm coming to Paris, Elena. Tomorrow night. And when I get there, we're going to have a conversation. Face to face. No guards, no games. Just you and me and the truth." "Go to hell." "Already there, darling. Question is, are you coming with me or still pretending you're better than this?" He hung up before she could answer. Elena sat frozen, phone dead in her hand. Adrienne was staring at her. "What did he say?" "He's coming here. Tomorrow night. He wants to meet." "It's a trap." "Probably." "So we run. Leave Paris, get the files and disappear." Elena looked out the cafe window at the rain-slicked streets, at the ordinary people living ordinary lives, and felt the weight of the choice settling on her shoulders. Run or fight. Victim or hunter. Live in fear or die on her feet. She thought about her mother's fading smile, about 5 years of silence, about the ledger hidden in her bag and the USB drive that held an empire's secrets. She thought about Dante's voice saying, "Become someone worthy of being my enemy." "No," she said quietly. "We stay. We get the files. And tomorrow night I meet him. Elena, if I run now, I'll run forever. He'll always be out there, always hunting, always... She swallowed hard. I need to end this, one way or another. Adrienne studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Then we'd better make sure you're ready. Because if you walk into that room tomorrow night unprepared, you won't walk back out. They spent the rest of the day planning. Adrienne taught Elena things her years as Dante's wife had never required. How to spot a tail, how to lose one, where to hide a weapon so it couldn't be found, how to read a room for exits, how to turn any situation into an advantage. Violence is easy, Adrienne said. Any idiot can pull a trigger. The hard part is knowing when to pull it and when to wait, when to strike, and when to let them think they've won. Claude called just after midnight. It's done. Come see. They crossed the street through rain that fell like tears. Claude's apartment smelled worse than before, fierce sweat and burned coffee and the electric smell of overheated processors. But his screens glowed with data, numbers and names and connections spreading like spiderwebs across multiple monitors. This is incredible, he breathed. I've never seen anything like this. Your husband, ex-husband, he's got accounts in 47 countries. Shell companies layered 12 deep, money flowing through legitimate businesses and dirty ones, all mixed together so well you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Can you map it? Elena asked. Show me the whole structure. Already did. Claude pulled up a visualization, nodes and connections, a massive web of corruption. Every business he owns, every politician he pays, every operation he runs, it's all here. All of it. Elena stared at the screen, at the empire her husband had built, and felt something cold settle in her chest. This was power, real power, the kind that broke nations and made kings. And tomorrow night she was going to walk into a room with the man who controlled all of it. And what? Threaten him? Bargain with him? Kill him? She didn't know. Didn't have a plan past getting there and looking him in the eyes while she still had the strength to do it. Copy everything, she told Claude. Multiple drives, multiple formats. I want redundancy. I want to make sure if something happens to me, this data survives. Claude nodded, already moving. Give me an hour. Elena walked to the window, stared out at Paris, sleeping under rain. Adrienne came to stand beside her. You don't have to do this, Adrienne said quietly. We could release the data now. Send it to every news organization, every law enforcement agency. Let them tear him apart while we disappear. That's not enough. Elena, it's not enough, her voice cracked. He took 5 years of my life. He lied to me every single day. He married me knowing my father killed his, used me as... She pressed her forehead against the cold glass. I need him to see me. Need him to know I'm not the ignorant little wife anymore. Need him to understand what he created when he broke me. And if he kills you? Then at least I died fighting back. Elena turned to look at her. You asked me if I was ready. I am. For the first time in my life, I'm completely ready. Claude finished the copies, gave them 3 USB drives, each with complete datasets. Elena distributed them, one in her jacket, one in her boot, one she gave to Adrienne. If I don't come back tomorrow night, she said, release everything, every file, every name, burn it all down. Adrienne took the drive, nodded. Where's he want to meet? He didn't say. He'll call tomorrow with location. Then we scout possible sites, hotels, restaurants, anywhere he might choose. We find exits, we plant backup plans. We make sure if this goes bad, you have a way out. They worked through the night, barely slept. When morning came gray and exhausted, Elena felt like she was made of wire and broken glass, sharp, taut, ready to cut. The call came at 3 in the afternoon. Hotel Ritz, Dante said without preamble. Room 447, 8 o'clock. Come alone. How do I know you'll be alone? You don't, but I will be, because this conversation is between you and me, nobody else. Pause. Bring the drives if you want. Bring a weapon if it makes you feel safer. But come, Elena, let's finish this. The line went dead. Adrienne immediately started planning. The Ritz is old-school luxury, security everywhere, cameras, guards. Not ideal for an ambush, but not great for escape either. I'm going. I know, so we prepare for every outcome. Adrienne pulled out a map of the hotel, started marking exits. You go in the front, I'll be in the bar. Exit routes here, here, and here. If it goes bad, you run for the nearest one. I'll cover your exit." Elena nodded, only half listening. Her mind was already in that room, facing Dante, saying all the things she'd never had the courage to say when she was his wife. The hours crawled past. Elena showered, changed into clean clothes, black jeans, black shirt, black jacket, colors of morning, colors of night. She checked the small pistol Adrienne had given her. Compact, reliable, easy to hide. She'd never fired a gun in her life. Didn't plan to tonight, but having it there, heavy against her spine, made her feel less helpless. At 7:30, they left for the hotel. Paris at night was all light and shadow, beauty and menace mixed so thoroughly you couldn't separate them. Elena walked through crowds of tourists and locals, just another woman going somewhere, nobody worth noticing. The Ritz rose before her, all gilded elegance and old money. She walked through the front doors like she belonged there, like she'd done it 1,000 times. Room 447 was on the 4th floor. Elena took the stairs, needing the movement, needing to burn off the nervous energy crackling through her veins. She stood outside the door for 30 seconds, breathing, centering herself. Then she knocked. The door opened immediately. Dante stood there in shirt sleeves, no jacket, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. Tired, almost vulnerable. "Elena," he said. "Come in." She stepped past him into the room. It was large, expensive, anonymous. A sitting area with 2 chairs. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A bedroom visible through an open door. No guards. No weapons she could see. Just Dante and her and 5 years of lies between them. He closed the door, locked it. Elena's hand twitched toward the gun at her back. "Relax," Dante said. "If I wanted you dead, you'd never have made it to Paris." "Comforting?" He smiled without humor. "Drink?" "No." "Suit yourself." He poured himself scotch from the room's bar, took a sip, settled into one of the chairs. "Sit, please." Elena remained standing. "You said you wanted to talk, so talk." Dante studied her over the rim of his glass. "You've changed. 3 days ago, you could barely look me in the eye. Now you walk in here with a gun at your back and murder in your expression. It's striking. You made me this way. Did I? Or did I just remove the obstacles that were keeping you from becoming it?" He set down his glass. "That's what I couldn't tell, Elena. That's what I needed to know. Were you genuinely weak or just pretending to be because it was safer? Were you your mother's daughter or your father's?" "Both. Neither." Elena's hands clenched. "I'm my own person." "Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're acting exactly like your father would, taking the ledger, using it as leverage, building alliances, preparing to strike. It's his playbook, move for move." "At least I know what I am now. You're the one who's been lying." Dante leaned back, regarding her with something that might have been respect. "I never lied to you, Elena, not once. You said you never loved me. That wasn't a lie. That was honesty. Finally." He stood, moved to the window, stared out at the Paris skyline. "But it wasn't the whole truth either." Elena's pulse kicked up. "What does that mean?" "It means I married you for strategic reasons. That part was true. I married you to get close to your father's network, to find proof of what he'd done to mine." He turned to face her. "But somewhere in 5 years of living with you, of watching you, of seeing how you moved through that house like a ghost trying not to disturb anything, I realized something." "What?" "That I'd made a terrible mistake." His voice was quiet. "Not in marrying you, in never giving you a reason to be more than what you were, in keeping you locked away like something fragile instead of challenging you to be dangerous." Elena stared at him. "You're insane." "Probably, but I'm also right." He moved closer. She stood her ground. "You think I let you escape because I wanted to test you. That's partially true. But Elena, I let you go because you deserved the chance to become someone who could hurt me. Really hurt me. Because that's what love is in our world. Not softness, not protection, but recognizing when someone is capable of destroying you and wanting to see them try." Her hand was on the gun now, fingers curled around the grip. "That's not love. That's sickness." "Maybe they're the same thing." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough to touch, close enough to kill. I am sick, Elena. I've known that for years. I'm a monster who builds empires out of suffering and calls it business. But so was your father. So would you be if you followed through on whatever revenge you're planning with those files. I'm nothing like either of you. Aren't you? You stole classified information. You manipulated Marcus Delacroix into betraying me by giving him evidence of his daughter's death. Evidence you didn't have, by the way. Adrian helped you fake those photos. Elena's blood ran cold. How did you... I know everything, Elena. I've known since the moment you stepped off that train in Geneva. I've been watching every move, listening to every conversation, letting you believe you were 3 steps ahead while I was always 10 steps beyond that. She pulled the gun, aimed it at his chest. Then you know I could kill you right now. Yes, you could. He didn't move, didn't flinch. But you won't. Because you need me to answer the one question that's been eating you alive since Maria told you about your mother. Elena's hand was shaking. The gun felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. What question? Whether I knew. Dante's eyes were steady on hers. Whether I knew your father killed her. Whether our marriage was partly revenge for that too. The room spun. Elena's finger trembled on the trigger. Tell me, she whispered. Did you know? Dante held her gaze for a long, terrible moment. Then he smiled. Yes, I knew. I've always known. Elena pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. She pulled again. Again. Click, click, click. Dante reached out and gently took the gun from her shaking hands. Did you really think Adrienne was working for you? She's been mine for 6 months. The passport, the money, the files from Marcus, all of it. He set the gun on the table. All designed to bring you exactly here, to this moment. Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The world was ending, and she was still standing in it, still trying to make sense of architecture built entirely from lies. Why? The word came out broken. Why do all this? Because I needed you to understand, Dante said softly. Needed you to feel what I felt, the betrayal, the rage, the desperate need to tear apart the person who destroyed your world. He touched her face, and she was too shocked to pull away. Your father killed my father, killed your mother, built an empire on corpses, and called himself a good man, and you loved him anyway, believed in him anyway. He was my father, and I was your husband. But you never looked at me the way you looked at him, never trusted me, never let yourself love me. His thumb brushed her cheek. So I had to break you, had to shatter every illusion, had to show you exactly what your precious father was before you could ever see me clearly. Elena jerked away. You're insane. I'm in love with you. He said it simply, like a fact, like gravity. I have been for years. I just didn't know how to make you love me back when you were too busy mourning a monster. Her legs gave out. She hit the floor, back against the wall, staring up at him like he was something from a nightmare. So here we are, Dante continued. You have files that could destroy me. Except they won't, because Marcus is already dead. I had him killed 2 hours ago. Adrienne is mine. The tech specialist in Paris works for me. Every move you've made, I've controlled. You're not the hunter, Elena. You never were. Then what am I? She whispered. Dante crouched down, eye level with her. You're the woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life earning forgiveness from, if you'll let me. And there, in that hotel room with Paris glittering outside and her world in ruins around her, Elena realized something that made her want to scream. Part of her, some small broken part, wanted to say yes. Because Dante was right. He was a monster. But so was her father. So was she, now. They were all monsters here. The only question was whose monster she wanted to be. She looked up at him, at this man who'd systematically destroyed her life to remake her in his image, and felt something shift inside her chest. Not forgiveness. Never that. But understanding. Terrible, complete understanding of exactly what he'd done and why. If I stay, she said slowly, if I come back with you, it won't be the same. I won't be the quiet wife who doesn't ask questions. I don't want that wife. I want this one. The one with murder in her eyes and my empire's secrets in her pocket. He offered his hand. So what do you say, Elena? Do you want to destroy me? Or do you want to help me build something worse? Outside, sirens wailed. Someone was always dying in cities like this. Someone was always running. Someone was always making choices that would haunt them forever. Elena stared at Dante's outstretched hand and knew, absolutely knew, that taking it would mean abandoning every value she'd ever held, every belief about who she was and who she wanted to be. It would mean becoming exactly what her father had been, what Dante was, a monster in expensive clothes. Her hand moved toward his and stopped, because in that moment, Elena Varelli made a choice that would change everything. "No," she said, and pulled out the real USB drive from her boot, the one Adrienne didn't know about, the one she'd hidden while the tech specialist copied files, the one that held not just Dante's empire, but proof of every conversation they'd had, including this one, recorded on the phone still in her pocket. "I'm going to destroy you," she said clearly, "but not because I hate you, because you're right. We are the same. And that's exactly why one of us needs to die before we poison anyone else." She stood, walked to the door, unlocked it, turned back to see Dante still crouched where she'd left him, something like pride in his eyes. "Run fast," he said quietly, "because when I come for you this time, I won't hold back." "Good," Elena said. "Neither will I." And she walked out of that room, out of that hotel, out of the wreckage of her old life, into a war she was finally ready to fight. Elena made it exactly 4 blocks before she realized she was being followed. Not Dante's men. She'd learned to spot those. The expensive suits, the careful distance, the synchronized movements of professionals. No, these were different. Rougher, hungrier. 3 of them moving through the Paris crowds like sharks through shallow water. She ducked into a metro station, descended the stairs 2 at a time, her breath coming hard and fast. The recording device in her pocket felt like a bomb. Everything Dante had said, every confession, every manipulation, all of it captured, all of it evidence. If she could just get somewhere safe, somewhere she could upload the files, send them to every news outlet, every law enforcement agency, burn his empire down before he could stop her. The metro platform was crowded. Good. Elena pushed into the mass of commuters, keeping her head down, scanning reflections in the windows across the tracks. There. One of them, 20 feet back, young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a cheap leather jacket and dead eyes. The train pulled in with a screech of brakes. Elena waited until the doors started closing, then slipped through at the last second. Looked back to see the man in the leather jacket trapped on the platform, his face twisting with rage. She rode 3 stops, got off, switched lines, rode 4 more. Standard evasion protocol. Everything Adrienne had taught her, except Adrienne had been working for Dante all along, which meant everything she'd taught Elena, Dante knew she'd do. The thought made her stomach clench. How deep did his control go? How many people in her escape route had been his all along? She emerged from the metro in the 13th arrondissement, a neighborhood of concrete towers and immigrant communities. Not tourist Paris, working Paris, the kind of place where people minded their own business and didn't ask questions. Elena found an internet cafe tucked between a halal butcher and a Chinese restaurant, the kind of place that still existed in neighborhoods time had forgotten. She paid cash for an hour, took a computer in the back corner where she could see the door. Her hand shook as she pulled out the USB drive, the real one, the one with everything. She plugged it in. The files opened normally, financial records, account numbers, shell companies, everything Claude had shown her, everything that mapped Dante's empire. She started uploading to a secure server, routing through multiple proxies, doing everything she could to make sure the data survived, even if she didn't. 15 minutes. That's all she needed. 15 minutes and the upload would complete and Dante's world would end. The door opened. A woman walked in. 50s, gray hair, unremarkable face. She ordered coffee at the counter, sat down 3 computers away. Elena kept working. Upload at 40%. Come on, come on. The woman stood, walked over, sat down next to Elena like they were old friends. "Hello, dear," she said in French. "You should stop what you're doing." Elena's hand moved toward the gun at her back, the real gun this time, the one she'd bought from a dealer in the 18th after leaving the Ritz. "Who are you?" "My name is not important. What's important is that you're making a terrible mistake." The woman's voice was gentle, grandmotherly. "That data you're uploading? It's not complete. It's been altered. You're lying. Am I? Check the timestamps, check the file sizes, really look at what you're sending out into the world. Elena's blood went cold. She pulled up the file properties. The woman was right. The timestamps were wrong. Files that should have been created 7 years ago showed creation dates from 3 days ago. What did you do? Elena's voice came out raw. I did nothing. Your husband did. He knew you'd try this, knew you'd copy the files, try to expose him. So he let you steal data that looks real but will fall apart under any serious scrutiny. Fake accounts, doctored records. Just enough truth to be believable and enough lies to be worthless. The woman smiled sadly. You release that data, every journalist and investigator will spend a week discovering it's fraudulent, and then they'll dismiss the real accusations as conspiracy theory. Elena stared at the screen. Upload at 63%. She could abort, could stop it before it finished. But then what? She had nothing, no evidence, no leverage, no way to hurt Dante at all. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because I was sent to give you a choice. The woman pulled out a phone, showed Elena a photo. It was Maria, the housekeeper. Bound to a chair, blood running from a cut on her forehead. Come back quietly, destroy the files, and she lives. Continue this crusade, and she dies. Slowly. The world tilted. Elena gripped the desk so hard her knuckles went white. You're bluffing. Am I? Test me. Finish that upload, and in 10 minutes I'll send you a video of her screaming. The woman's eyes were flat, empty. Your husband wants you to understand something, Elena. There is no escape. There is no victory. There is only the choice between submission and watching everyone you've ever cared about suffer for your pride. Elena looked at Maria's terrified face on the screen, thought about the old woman who'd helped her escape, who'd kept her father's secrets, who'd tried to give her a chance at freedom. Her finger hovered over the cancel button. That's a good girl, the woman said. You're learning. Something in Elena snapped. She hit upload instead. Watched the percentage jump to 70, 80, 90. The woman's expression didn't change. She just pulled out a different phone and made a call. Do it, she said simply. Wait. Elena lunged for the phone, but the woman was already moving, faster than someone her age should move. Former military, Elena realized too late. Former something that had trained her to kill. The woman's hand closed around Elena's wrist, twisted, sent pain shooting up her arm. The gun clattered to the floor. People in the cafe were starting to notice, starting to get up, move toward the door. I gave you a chance, the woman said quietly. Your husband will be disappointed. Then she was gone, disappearing into the Paris evening like smoke. Elena grabbed the USB drive, the gun, ran. Behind her, sirens already starting. The cafe owner must have called the police. She couldn't be there when they arrived, couldn't let herself get trapped in the system where Dante's money and connections could find her. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs screamed, until she found herself in an alley behind a restaurant, gasping for breath, trying not to vomit from fear and adrenaline. Her phone buzzed, the burner she'd bought this morning. She answered without thinking. Maria's dead. Dante's voice was flat, empty. They killed her 3 minutes ago. Quick, at least. A bullet to the head. Better than she deserved for betraying me. You bastard! You did this. Not me. I gave you a choice, and you chose wrong. Pause. The files you uploaded are spreading across the internet right now. Within an hour, every major news outlet will have them. Within 6 hours, they'll all realize they're worthless. And you'll have accomplished nothing except getting an innocent woman killed. Elena slid down the alley wall, phone pressed to her ear, unable to speak. Come home, Dante said, gentler now. Please. This doesn't have to continue. You've proven your point. You're strong. You're dangerous. You're exactly what I always knew you could be. Now stop running and come home. So you can kill me too? I don't want to kill you, Elena. I never have. I want you beside me. I want to build something together. An empire not based on lies, but on mutual understanding. On love. That's not love. Then what is it? She didn't have an answer, couldn't find words past the grief and rage choking her throat. I'm sending a car, Dante said. It'll be at the corner of your alley in 3 minutes. Get in or don't. Your choice. But know this. If you choose to keep running, I will find you, and everyone between here and there will suffer for it. Maria was just the first. The line went dead. Elena sat in that alley, surrounded by trash and the smell of old food, and felt everything inside her shatter. Maria was dead. The files were worthless. Dante had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. She'd thought she was building an escape, building a weapon, building a future. But all she'd done was dance exactly the way he wanted her to dance. Headlights illuminated the alley mouth. A black Mercedes, idling quiet as death. Elena looked at it, looked at the gun in her hand, looked at the USB drive that held nothing but lies. She could get in the car, could go back to Dante, could become whatever twisted thing he wanted her to be, partner, prisoner, puppet in an empire built on blood. Or she could run, could keep running until he caught her, until everyone she'd ever known paid the price for her resistance, until the body count was so high she couldn't remember all the names. Or she could do something Dante wouldn't expect, something he couldn't plan for because it required a kind of desperation he'd never felt. Elena stood, walked past the Mercedes without looking at it. The driver didn't try to stop her. She could feel Dante watching through cameras, through his network of spies and informants, watching to see what she'd choose. She walked for 20 minutes, moving through Paris like a ghost, until she found what she was looking for, the Seine. Black water flowing through the heart of the city. People had been drowning their secrets in this river for centuries. What was one more? Elena stood on a bridge, looking down at the water. She pulled out the USB drive, the worthless files, the lies Dante had fed her, thinking she was taking power when really she was just following his script. She threw it in the river, watched it disappear without a splash. Then she pulled out her phone. Not the burner, the old one, the one from her life as Dante's wife. She'd kept it, hadn't been able to throw it away completely, some part of her still clinging to what she'd been. She turned it on for the first time in days. 47 missed calls, 38 voicemails, all from the same number, all from the one person she'd been avoiding since this whole nightmare started. Her hands shook as she dialed. It rang twice. Then a woman's voice, cautious. "Elena?" "I need help," Elena said. Her voice broke on the words. "Please, I need help and I have nowhere else to go." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "Paris. I'm in Paris, and I'm being hunted, and I got someone killed, and I don't know what to do anymore." "Stay where you are. Send me your location. I'm coming." Elena looked at the phone number, at the name she'd programmed into it so many years ago, before Dante, before everything. Sophia, her cousin. The one family member who'd refused to attend her wedding, who told her marrying Dante was a mistake, who'd stopped speaking to her when Elena chose him anyway, the last person in the world who had any reason to help her. "Why?" Elena whispered. "After everything I said to you, after I chose him over everyone who cared about me, why would you help me now?" "Because you're family," Sophia said simply, "and because I've been waiting 5 years for you to call." Elena sent her location. Then she sat down on the bridge, back against cold stone, and waited. Around her, Paris continued its beautiful, indifferent existence. Lovers walking hand in hand, tourists taking photos, life moving forward while hers fell apart. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. Not a Mercedes, a beat-up Renault that had seen better years. The passenger door opened and Sophia leaned across. "Get in." Elena climbed in. Sophia looked older than she remembered, early 30s now, hard years written in the lines around her eyes. But still her cousin, still family. "You look like hell," Sophia said. "I feel worse." Sophia pulled into traffic. "Start talking. Tell me everything." So Elena did. The whole story poured out. Dante's confession, the ledger, the fake files, Marcus's death, Maria's murder. All of it. By the time she finished, they were out of the city, driving through dark countryside toward somewhere Elena didn't recognize. Sophia was quiet for a long time. Then, "You really thought you could take down Dante Ravelli with some stolen financial records?" "I had to try." "You had to run. There's a difference." Sophia glanced at her. "Dante's not just some crime boss, Elena. He's connected everywhere, politicians, military, intelligence agencies. The man has contacts that go all the way to the top. You can't fight that. Nobody can." "Then what do I do?" "You disappear. For real this time. No USB drives, no revenge plans, no dramatic confrontations. You become someone else and you never look back. Elena stared out the window at darkness rushing past. I don't know how to do that. Lucky for you, I do. Sophia turned down a dirt road, drove for another 10 minutes until they reached a small farmhouse. Lights in the windows, smoke from the chimney. This is my place. Off the grid. Cash purchase under a name that doesn't exist. Dante doesn't know about it, because I made sure there's nothing connecting me to you for the last 5 years. They went inside. The house was simple but comfortable. Sophia poured them both whiskey, didn't wait for Elena to accept before pushing a glass into her hands. Drink. You need it. Elena drank. The burn helped. Made her feel something besides the numbing horror of the last few hours. I have resources, Sophia said. Not much, but enough. Fake documents, cash, contacts who can move you anywhere in the world. You want to disappear into South America, Southeast Asia, rural Canada? I can make it happen. Why? Elena asked. Why would you do all this for me after I shut you out? Sophia's jaw tightened. Because 5 years ago, I watched you marry a monster. Watched you smile at your wedding while I sat in the back knowing exactly what kind of man you were binding yourself to. And when I tried to warn you, you told me I was jealous, that I couldn't stand seeing you happy. She drained her whiskey. But you weren't happy. I could see it even then. You were terrified and pretending not to be. I thought I loved him. You loved the idea of him, the power, the protection, the fantasy that you could be safe in his world. Sophia poured them both another drink. But you were never safe. You were just postponing the moment when he'd stop pretending to be human. Elena's phone buzzed. The burner. She looked at it, stomach dropping. Unknown number. But she knew who it was. She answered. What do you want? I want you to stop making this harder than it needs to be. Dante sounded tired. Actually tired, not performing weariness. You didn't get in the car. You threw away the USB drive. You called your cousin Sophia, who lives in a farmhouse 40 kilometers outside Lyon. You really think I don't know every move you make? Sophia's face went white. She stood, moved to the window, looked out at the dark yard. How long have you known about this place? Elena asked, voice steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. Since she bought it. 3 years ago. I've been watching it, watching her, waiting to see if you'd ever reach out. If you'd ever try to use her as an escape route. Pause. Do you understand now, Elena? There is nowhere you can go that I haven't already mapped. No one you can trust that I haven't already compromised. Your entire world exists within the boundaries I allow. Then why let me run it all? Because I needed you to feel it. The helplessness, the desperation, the absolute certainty that you're trapped. His voice softened. Now you know what I felt. When your father killed mine. When I spent 5 years sleeping next to the daughter of my enemy, pretending to feel nothing, planning revenge while part of me was falling in love with you. He laughed, bitter. We're the same now, Elena. Both trapped by the sins of our fathers. Both destroyed by the people we thought we could trust. Elena looked at Sophia, at her cousin's terrified face. What happens now? Now you make a real choice. Not the false ones I've been offering, a real one. Background noise on his end, wind maybe, an engine. I'm 10 minutes from Sophia's farmhouse. When I arrive, we're going to have a conversation. Just the three of us. And you're going to learn something about your dear cousin that will make you wish you'd stayed in that marble prison. The line went dead. Sophia was backing toward the door. Elena, I swear I didn't... Whatever he's going to say, I didn't... What is he talking about? Elena's voice was ice. What don't I know? It's not what you think. Tell me. Sophia's face crumpled. Your mother, the accident. I was there. The world stopped. Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't process what she was hearing. What? I was 17. Your father paid me 50,000 euros. Said your mother was dangerous. Said she was planning to take you away, destroy the family, ruin everything we'd built. Tears were streaming down Sophia's face now. I believed him. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting all of us. You killed her. The words came out flat. Dead. I cut her brake lines. I didn't know. I thought it would just be a warning. I didn't know the brakes would fail on that hill. I didn't know she'd... Sophia was sobbing now. I've lived with it every day for 15 years, every single day. And when you married Dante, when you shut me out, part of me was relieved because I didn't have to look at you and remember what I'd done. Elena's hands were shaking. She pulled out the gun, aimed it at her cousin, her family, her mother's murderer.
Elena, please. You took her from me. Elena's voice was breaking. You took the only person who ever loved me for real, and you killed her for money. I was 17. I was stupid. I believed your father's lies. Sophia raised her hands. I know it doesn't change anything. I know sorry means nothing, but I've spent 15 years trying to make it right, trying to be someone who could help you when you finally needed it.
By hiding in this house, by running away? Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. That's not making it right. That's cowardice. Headlights swept across the windows, a car pulling up the long driveway. Dante was here. Sophia looked at the door, then back at Elena. If you want to kill me, I understand. I deserve it. But wait until after. Wait until you hear what Dante has to say. Because I promise you, Elena, what I did is nothing compared to what he's about to tell you. The car stopped. Doors opened. Footsteps on gravel. Elena kept the gun trained on Sophia, but moved to the side so she could see the door. Her mind was fracturing. Everything she thought she knew, everyone she thought she could trust, all of it lies built on lies built on corpses. The door opened without a knock. Dante walked in like he owned the place. Maybe he did. Maybe he owned everything, and Elena had been the only one too stupid to see it. He looked at Elena holding the gun, at Sophia crying, at the tableau of broken family and shattered trust. Good, he said. You told her. That saves time. Elena swung the gun toward him. Get out. In a minute. First, you need to understand something. Dante pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. It was her father, but younger. Standing next to someone Elena recognized. Dante's father. Both of them smiling, arms around each other's shoulders. Friends. That was taken 6 months before your father had mind killed, Dante said quietly. They were partners. Best friends for 20 years. Built their empires together. And then your father decided he wanted it all. He swiped to another photo. Her mother. Young, beautiful, laughing. Standing next to Dante's mother. Also friends. Your mother knew, Dante continued. She knew what your father was planning. Knew he was going to kill my father. And she helped him do it. Another swipe. Documents. Bank transfers. These are the payments your mother made to the assassins, using her own accounts, her own money. She wasn't an innocent victim, Elena. She was an accomplice. You're lying. But Elena's voice lacked conviction. Am I? Check your father's ledger. Really check it. The full version, not the copy I let you steal. Page 47. Your mother's handwriting, her signature on the contract. Dante's eyes were sad. She helped kill my father. And when she tried to back out later, when guilt finally caught up to her, your father had Sophia cut those brake lines to keep her quiet forever. Elena looked at Sophia. Is that true? Sophia nodded, face destroyed. He told me she was going to betray the family, that she'd become a liability. He didn't tell me why until after, until it was too late to take it back. The gun was so heavy. Elena's arms were shaking from holding it up. She wanted to shoot someone, anyone, everyone. But there were no good targets here, just monsters all the way down. So you see, Dante said gently, we're all guilty, all complicit in each other's suffering. Your father killed my father, your mother helped. Your cousin killed your mother. And I married you knowing all of it, planning to make you suffer for their sins. He stepped closer. But somewhere in that cycle of revenge, I made a mistake. I fell in love with the woman I was supposed to destroy. Love. Elena laughed. It came out broken, jagged. You don't know what that word means. Maybe not. Maybe I'm too damaged to understand healthy love. But I understand obsession. I understand need. I understand that 5 years of watching you wasn't enough, and 50 wouldn't be either. He was close now, close enough to touch. I understand that killing you would hurt me more than it would hurt you, and I understand that I would burn the world down before I let you disappear. Elena looked at him, really looked, at the man who'd manipulated her entire escape, who'd orchestrated every move, who'd let her believe she was free while tightening the chains, and saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Desperation. He needed her to choose him. Not because of force or fear or control, but because she wanted to. Because despite everything, some part of her understood him in a way no one else ever could. "I can't," she whispered. "After everything you've done, everything you've told me, I can't just forgive that and come back." "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for partnership. For two people who've been destroyed by the same history to stop destroying each other and start destroying everyone else." Dante's voice was raw. "I'm asking you to stop being a victim and become a queen." "Queens die too." "Yes, but they die on thrones, not running through alleys." He held out his hand. "Last chance, Elena. Take my hand and we build something new from all this blood and ashes, or keep the gun pointed at me and pull the trigger. Either way, this ends tonight." Elena looked at his outstretched hand, at Sophia sobbing against the wall, at her reflection in the dark window, hollow-eyed, broken, barely recognizable. She thought about her mother, about Maria, about all the people who died in the war between monsters. She thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago, naive, trusting, believing in love and safety and happy endings. That woman was dead, had died the moment Dante said he never loved her over breakfast. Everything since had just been her corpse learning to walk. So the question wasn't who she'd been, it was who she was going to be. Victim or monster, prey or predator, the hunted or the hunter. Elena lowered the gun, Dante's face flooded with relief. Then she turned and shot Sophia, not to kill, in the shoulder. Sophia screamed, hit the floor, blood spreading across the old wood. "That's for my mother," Elena said coldly. "Live with it the way I've had to live with losing her." She turned back to Dante. "You want a partner? You want someone who can match you? Fine. But we do this my way. No more games, no more tests, no more lies." She stepped closer. "You tell me everything, every secret, every operation, every body. And in exchange, I help you build something that makes our father's empires look like children playing with toys." Dante stared at her. Then slowly, carefully, he smiled. "Deal." "One more thing," Elena said. "We find everyone who was involved in my mother's death. Everyone who touched that operation. Everyone who knew and stayed silent. And we make them pay. Even if that includes people you love?" Elena looked at Sophia bleeding on the floor, groaning in pain. "I don't love anyone anymore. Love is what weak people feel. We're not weak." Dante reached out, touched her face. This time she didn't pull away. "No, we're not." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Send the medic. We have a wound to treat." Pause. "And prepare the house. My wife is coming home." Elena heard the words and felt nothing. No relief, no fear, no anything. Just a cold, empty certainty that she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She wasn't Elena Virelli anymore. Wasn't Sophia Martinelli. Wasn't anyone she'd ever been. She was something new. Something forged in betrayal and blood and the absolute destruction of every value she'd once held sacred. She was Dante's equal, his partner, his monster. And together, they were going to teach the world what real power looked like. Sophia was loaded into a car, driven away to some facility where Dante's doctors would patch her up and keep her quiet. Elena watched it go without emotion. "What happens to her?" she asked. "Whatever you want. She lives, she dies, she disappears. Your call." Elena thought about it. "She lives, but she works for us now. She wants redemption? She can earn it by doing exactly what we say for the rest of her miserable life." Done. They drove back toward the city, toward the marble house Elena had fled from days ago, toward the life she'd tried to escape. Except now she wasn't escaping. She was choosing it, eyes open, fully aware of what she was becoming. "Question," Dante said as they drove. "The files you uploaded, the fake ones. You knew they were worthless when you sent them, didn't you?" Elena looked at him. "Yes." "Then why?" "Because I needed to see if you'd really kill Maria. Needed to know for certain there was no mercy in you, no line you wouldn't cross." She smiled without warmth. "Now I know. And knowing that makes this easier." "Makes what easier?" "Becoming what you need me to be. Can't have doubts. Can't wonder if maybe, somewhere deep down, you're actually human." Elena stared out at Paris passing by. "Now I know you're not. Which means I don't have to be either." Dante was quiet for a long moment. "Do you hate me?" "Yes." "Will you ever forgive me?" No. Can you work with me anyway? Elena thought about all the people who'd lied to her. Her father, her mother, her cousin, her husband. Everyone she'd ever trusted had betrayed her. Everyone she'd ever loved had used her. So why not use them back? Why not take all that pain and rage and turn it into something sharp, something deadly? Why not become the thing they'd tried to break her into being? Yes, she said, I can work with you. Not because I've forgiven you, but because you're right. We're the same now. Both ruined by the same history, both too damaged to be anything except what we are. And what are we? Elena looked at her reflection in the window, at the stranger staring back. Monsters, she said quietly. We're monsters. And it's time we stopped apologizing for it. They pulled up to this marble house. Guards opened the gates without question. Elena walked through those doors she'd climbed over just days ago and felt like she was walking into a tomb. Her tomb, where the woman she'd been would be buried forever. Dante led her to his study, poured them both scotch, raised his glass. To partnership, he said. Elena raised hers. To revenge. They drank. And somewhere in the space between those two toasts, Elena Varelli died completely. What rose in her place had no name yet, but it had Dante's empire at its fingertips, had his secrets in its memory, had nothing left to lose and everything to gain, and it was going to burn down the world that had created it, starting with everyone who'd lied, starting with everyone who'd thought she was too weak to fight back, starting now. Dante set down his glass. Ready to begin? Elena's smile was all edges. I've been ready since the moment I pulled that trigger. Good, because I have someone I want you to meet, someone who's been waiting to see what you'd become. He pulled out his phone, sent a quick message. 2 minutes later, footsteps in the hallway. The study door opened, and Elena's father walked in, alive, healthy, smiling. The glass fell from her hand, shattered on marble. Again. Hello, sweetheart, he said. Did you really think I'd die without seeing my plan through? And in that moment, Elena understood. She understood nothing. Nothing at all. The entire world was a lie. And she was standing at its center, watching it burn. Elena's legs gave out. She hit the marble floor hard, knees cracking against stone, hands splayed wide to catch herself. The broken glass cut into her palms, but she didn't feel it. Couldn't feel anything except the roaring in her ears, the world tilting sideways, reality fracturing into pieces too sharp to hold. Her father stood in the doorway like a ghost made flesh. Not gaunt, not sick. Perfectly healthy, perfectly alive, perfectly positioned to destroy what was left of her sanity. You're dead. The words scraped out of her throat. I watched them bury you. I stood at your grave. You watched them bury a body. Her father walked into the study, calm as Sunday morning. Poor, unfortunate soul who'd been dead 3 days before the funeral. Same height, same build. After embalming and a closed casket, no one looked too close. He poured himself scotch from Dante's decanter, settled into the leather chair like he'd never left. Did you really think I'd let something as inconvenient as death stop my plans? Elena couldn't breathe. The air had turned to concrete in her lungs. She looked at Dante, standing there watching her unravel, his expression unreadable. You knew, she whispered. All this time, you knew he was alive. Of course I knew. Dante crouched down beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Who do you think helped him fake it? The death certificate, the body, the burial, all of it required resources, connections, the kind only I could provide. But you told me he killed your father. He did, and I helped him disappear anyway. Dante's voice was gentle, clinical, like he was explaining simple mathematics to a child. Because your father and I came to an understanding, an arrangement that required him to be legally dead and you to be completely unaware. Elena's hands were shaking. Blood dripped from her cut palms onto the white marble, spreading in thin red lines. What arrangement? Her father leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You were always the endgame, sweetheart. From the day you were born. I knew eventually I'd need to disappear. Too many enemies, too many people who wanted what I'd built. So I started planning, set up offshore accounts, built escape routes, and positioned you exactly where you needed to be. With Dante, with my successor. Her father smiled. See, I couldn't just hand over my empire to a stranger. Needed someone I could trust, someone who understood the business, someone who had as much to lose as I did if things fell apart. So you let him marry your daughter. Elena's voice was dead. After he knew you killed his father, after everything. I didn't just let him marry you. I brokered the deal. Your husband gets my network, my contacts, everything I built over 40 years. And in exchange, he keeps you safe. Keeps you exactly where I can watch you. Make sure my bloodline continues to benefit from what I created. The study was spinning. Elena pressed her bleeding hands against the floor, trying to anchor herself to something solid. You used me. Both of you. This whole time. We used each other, Dante corrected. Your father needed a way out. I needed legitimacy and access to his empire. You were the bridge that made it all possible. And my mother? Elena's voice cracked. Was she part of your arrangement too? Did you plan her death together like some kind of sick business transaction? Her father's expression flickered, something almost like regret. Your mother was a liability. She found out about the arrangement, threatened to expose everything unless I stopped, said she wouldn't let me sell you like property. He took a sip of scotch. I gave her the chance to walk away quietly. She refused. So yes, I had her eliminated. And yes, I used Sophia to do it because a teenager makes mistakes, leaves messy evidence, gives me leverage to control her for the rest of her life. You monster! I'm a businessman. There's a difference. Her father stood, walked to the window, looked out at the grounds he'd once owned. Everything I did to build something that would last. An empire that would survive me, that would protect you even after I was gone. Protect me? Elena laughed. It came out shrill, unhinged. You destroyed me. You married me off to a man who hates me. You faked your death and let me grieve. You manipulated every moment of my life and call it protection? I call it preparation. He turned back to face her. Did you think you were ready to run an empire? To make the hard choices? To do what needed doing without flinching? You were soft, Elena, weak, still dreaming about fairy tales and happy endings. I needed to break that illusion before you could be useful. Useful. Elena pushed herself up. Her legs wobbled but held. That's all I am to you, a tool. You're my daughter, my legacy, my greatest creation. Her father's voice was almost tender. And now, thanks to everything you've been through, you're finally ready. Ready for what? Dante stood, moved to stand beside her father. Two men, two monsters, both looking at her like she was a prize they'd jointly won. To take over, Dante said simply. Your father's stepping back permanently, going to ground somewhere no one will ever find him. And I'm tired of running the day-to-day operations. Too many moving parts, too many enemies. I need a partner I can trust absolutely. And you think that's me? Elena's voice rose. After everything you've done? After all the lies? I know it's you. Dante pulled out a folder from his desk. Thick, heavy. Because for the last year, you've been running half the operations without even knowing it. Every charity you organized, money laundering, every gala you planned, cover for weapons deals, every society function you attended, you were meeting with my clients, my partners, making connections I could exploit later. He dropped the folder at her feet. Photographs spilled out. Elena at a dozen different events, shaking hands with men whose faces she recognized now from her father's ledger. War criminals, arms dealers, politicians so corrupt they made the mob look ethical. You've been my partner all along, Dante continued. The only difference is now you know it. Now you can make real choices instead of stumbling through mine. Elena looked at the photos, at her own smiling face, at 5 years of unwitting complicity spread across marble, like evidence of crimes she'd committed without realizing. I want out, she whispered. There is no out. Her father's voice was firm. You're in this whether you accept it or not. You know too much. You've touched too many operations. The only question is whether you embrace it or spend the rest of your life running from people who want to silence you. Then I'll run. For how long? Dante moved closer. A year, 5, 10. Eventually someone will find you. Eventually you'll make a mistake. And when that happens, you won't have my protection. You'll just be another loose end that needs tying up. Elena's hands curled into fists. Blood dripped from her cut palms, leaving red prints on her jeans. You're trying to scare me into compliance. I'm trying to make you understand reality. Dante was right in front of her now, close enough to touch, to kill. Your mother tried to run. Look what happened to her. Marcus tried to leverage his position. Dead. Maria tried to help you escape. Dead. Everyone who goes against this system ends up in the ground. Or they end up like you, Elena spat. Alive but hollowed out. Monsters wearing human skin. Yes. Dante didn't flinch from the accusation. Exactly like us. But alive. Powerful. In control. That's the trait, Elena. Your conscience for your survival. Your illusions for your empire. She looked between them. Father and husband. Past and present. Both offering the same devil's bargain with slightly different words. And something inside her, some last small piece of the woman she'd been, finally, completely shattered. I need time, she said quietly. Time to think. Time to process this. Her father checked his watch. You have 12 hours. Tomorrow morning, we finalize everything. Transfer of assets, restructuring of operations, your formal coronation as my successor. He smiled. After that, I disappear and you become one of the most powerful people in Europe. Doesn't that sound better than running? Elena didn't answer. Couldn't. She turned and walked out of the study, down the hallway, up the stairs to the bedroom she'd once shared with Dante. The room where she'd spent 5 years sleeping next to an enemy. She locked the door, moved to the bathroom, washed the blood from her hands and watched it spiral down the drain. The cuts weren't deep, superficial. Just like everything else in her life, surface wounds, while the real damage happened somewhere deeper where scars didn't show. Her reflection stared back from the mirror. Hollow eyes, pale skin, a stranger wearing her face. She pulled out her phone, the burner she'd kept hidden even from Dante, and dialed the one number she'd sworn she'd never use. It rang 4 times. Then a man's voice, cautious. Yes? This is Elena Virelli. I need to speak with Agent Morrison. Now. Silence. Then, how did you get this number? My father gave it to me 3 years ago. Said if I ever needed out, really needed out, I should call. He said you'd help me. Elena's voice was steady, cold. Was he lying about that too? More silence. Then a different voice came on. Older. Authoritative. Elena, this is Morrison. I've been waiting for your call. You know who I am. Who my father is, who my husband is. I know everything. I've had files on your family for 15 years. Morrison's voice was careful. What do you want? I want immunity, full witness protection, in exchange for everything I know about Dante Ravelli's operations and my father's network. The words came out fast before she could second-guess them. I want out, completely out, new identity, new life, and I want both of them in prison for the rest of their lives. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. That's a big ask. I have big information, names, accounts, operations, bodies, everything. Elena's hands were shaking again. But you need to move fast. Tomorrow morning they're finalizing some kind of transfer. After that it'll be harder to prove anything. Where are you now? The house. Dante's watching. He always is, but there's a service entrance on the east side, no cameras. The guards change shift at 2 a.m. You have a 3-minute window. We'll be there 2 a.m. exactly. Be ready to run. I've been ready for days. Elena hung up before he could respond. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. In 6 hours, federal agents would extract her from this house, would put her in a safe location, would debrief her for weeks, maybe months, and then she'd disappear into witness protection. Become someone new, someone who'd never been married to a monster, never been the daughter of one, someone clean. The door handle rattled, locked. Elena, Dante's voice through the wood. Let me in. No. We need to talk. We're done talking. Silence. Then, you called someone. I heard you moving around. Who was it? Her heart kicked against her ribs. No one. Don't lie to me, not now, not after everything. The door handle rattled again, harder. Open this door or I'll break it down. Elena stood, moved away from the door. Her mind raced through options. The window was 4 stories up.
Jumping meant broken bones at best, death at worst. The bathroom had no exit. The only way out was through Dante. The door exploded inward. Dante stood in the hallway, breathing hard, something wild in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. "Who did you call?" he demanded. "I told you. No one." He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed her arms, pulled her close. "Your phone, give it to me." "No! Elena!" "I said no!" She shoved him, hard. He stumbled back half a step, more from surprise than force. For a moment they stared at each other, then Dante's expression changed, went cold, calculating. "You called the FBI," he said quietly. "Morrison, you made a deal." Elena's silence was answer enough.
Dante's laugh was broken glass. "Of course you did. Of course. I should have seen it coming. Should have known you'd—" He turned away, ran his hands through his hair. "When?" 2 a.m. They're coming to extract me. And you were just going to leave, walk out, let them arrest everyone while you disappeared into witness protection." He turned back. "Did you think about what happens to your father, to Sophia, to everyone you'd be burning on your way out? They deserve it, all of them."
"And me?" Dante's voice was raw. "Do I deserve it too?" Elena met his eyes. "More than anyone." He flinched like she'd struck him. "After everything I told you, after opening up, showing you the truth, giving you the chance to be my partner, you'd rather destroy it all and run. You gave me the chance to become a monster. I'm choosing to stay human instead."
"There is no human left, Elena. Don't you understand? You can't unring this bell, can't unknow what you know. The FBI will use you, drain you of everything useful, and then dump you in some nowhere town with a fake name and a fake life. You'll spend the rest of your existence looking over your shoulder, wondering when someone from your father's network finds you and finishes what they started. At least I'll be free. You'll be alone." Dante moved closer. "No family, no friends, no one who knows your real name or remembers who you were. Just you and your conscience, living with the knowledge that you betrayed everyone who ever knew you." "Everyone who ever lied to me, you mean?" "I never lied about what I was." His voice dropped. "I told you I was a monster. Told you I wanted you to become one too. That was honest, Elena. Maybe the only honest thing in your entire life." She wanted to hit him, wanted to scream, wanted to make him hurt the way she'd been hurting for days. But what came out was worse. "I loved you." The words were quiet, broken. "When we got married, I actually loved you. Thought we could build something real, and you knew that. Knew I was falling for you while you were using me as a pawn in your revenge against my father." Dante's face went white. "Elena, don't. Just don't." She backed away. "You don't get to pretend now. Don't get to act like any of this was real." "It was real. It is real. The window exploded inward, glass everywhere. A man in black tactical gear swung through, weapon raised, then another, then 3 more. Federal agents, but it wasn't 2 a.m. It was barely 10 p.m. Dante's hand went to his waistband. The lead agent aimed at his head. "Don't. Hands where I can see them." Dante raised his hand slowly, looked at Elena. "You set me up. The time. The location. All of it was to make me think I had time to plan." She hadn't. The 2 a.m. timing had been real, but Elena didn't correct him. Let him think she was smarter than she was. Let him believe she'd outplayed him one final time. More agents poured into the room, cuffed Dante, read him his rights while he stared at Elena like she was a stranger. Morrison stepped through the broken window, brushing glass from his jacket. "Elena Varelli, we need to go. Now. Your father's trying to run." "Where is he?" "The grounds. We have the house surrounded, but he's got a helicopter on the roof. We're out of time." Elena looked at Dante, at the man she'd married, the monster who'd claimed to love her. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by handcuffs and failure.
"I'm sorry," she said, and meant it. Sorry for him, sorry for herself. Sorry for everything they could have been if either of them had been different people. "No, you're not." Dante's voice was empty. "But you will be. When you're living in Kansas or Montana or wherever they hide you, when you realize you gave up an empire to be nobody, you'll remember this moment and regret it. Maybe. Probably. But regret was better than becoming what he wanted. Morrison grabbed her arm. We have to move.
They ran. Down the stairs, through hallways Elena had walked 1,000 times, past guards being subdued by federal agents, past the dining room where her marriage had ended over breakfast, through the kitchen where Maria used to hum while she worked, out into the garden. The night air was cold. Helicopters circled overhead, searchlights cutting through darkness, agents everywhere, weapons drawn, shouting commands. And there, at the center of the lawn, was her father. He stood perfectly still, hands raised, surrounded by 20 agents with rifles trained on his chest. But he wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Elena. "Sweetheart," he called out, "don't do this. Please, think about what you're throwing away." Elena stopped 20 feet from him. Morrison tried to pull her toward the perimeter, but she shook him off. "I'm not throwing anything away," she said. "I'm taking back what you stole. My life, my choice, my future. They'll drain you dry and throw you away. You're not special to them, just another witness, another source." Her father's voice was urgent. "But to me? To Dante? You're everything. You're the legacy, the empire, the future of everything we built." "You built it on corpses." "Every empire is built on corpses. Every civilization, every government. The only difference is we're honest about it." He took a step forward. Agents shouted warnings, but he ignored them. "You can judge us all you want, Elena. You can pretend you're better, but you benefited from those corpses your entire life. The house you grew up in, the schools you attended, the comfortable life you've always known, all paid for with blood money. I know, and I'll live with that guilt forever, but I won't add to it." "You already have." Her father's smile was sad. "Marcus, Maria. Sophia's going to be dead within the hour. You think Dante won't give that order? Everyone who touched your escape attempt will be eliminated. That's how this works. You know that." Elena's stomach dropped. Sophia. She'd forgotten about Sophia. Her cousin was still somewhere in Dante's medical facility, recovering from the gunshot wound Elena had given her. "Tell them to stand down," she said to Morrison. "Dante's people are going to kill a woman. You need to stop them." Morrison was already on his radio. "All units, we need immediate extraction at the following coordinates." He listened, face going grim. "Say again? When?" Pause. "Copy that." He looked at Elena. "They found a body 20 minutes ago. Female, early 30s, single gunshot wound to the head. They're running DNA, but—" "No." Elena's knees went weak. "No, I shot her in the shoulder. She was alive. She was a loose end." Her father's voice was gentle, almost kind. "The moment you turned on us, everyone connected to you became a liability. I gave the order myself. Quick, painless. More mercy than she showed your mother." Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the roaring in her ears. She'd killed Sophia, not with the bullet in the shoulder, with the choice to betray Dante, with the phone call to Morrison. She'd killed her cousin as surely as if she'd pulled the trigger herself. "This is what you chose," her father continued. "The righteous path, the moral high ground, and it's already cost one life. How many more before you realize there are no good choices here? Just degrees of terrible." Morrison pulled her back. "Don't listen to him. We need to move now." But Elena couldn't move, couldn't stop staring at her father, at the man who'd orchestrated everything, who'd killed her mother, who'd used her like a chess piece for 30 years. "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why did you have to do all this? If you wanted me to run the empire, you could have just asked, could have trained me, You would have said no. The woman you were 5 years ago would have run screaming from this world. I needed to break you first, needed to show you there was nothing else, nowhere to run, no one to trust." His voice softened. "I needed you to understand that power is the only thing that matters, the only thing that keeps you safe. And now you do understand, even if you're running from it." The helicopter on the roof started up, rotors whining, building speed. Morrison swore. "He's got someone in the pilot seat. Snipers, take the shot." "No." The command came from Elena's father, but he wasn't talking to the agents. He was looking at the helicopter. It exploded, a ball of fire that turned night into day. Shrapnel raining down like steel rain. Agents dove for cover. Morrison threw Elena to the ground, body shielding hers. When the debris stopped falling, she looked up. Her father was still standing, untouched, smiling. I'm not getting arrested today, he said calmly. Neither is my son-in-law. This whole operation, it's theater. You think I didn't know you were coming? That I didn't prepare? Morrison got to his feet, weapon drawn. You're surrounded. There's no escape.
Isn't there? Her father pulled out a phone. One call and I trigger devices planted throughout Rome, government buildings, metro stations, tourist attractions. Innocent people die. Hundreds of them. Thousands, maybe. He looked at Elena. Unless you agree to walk away, call off the arrest. Let us disappear quietly. You're bluffing. Am I? He pressed a button. Elena's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, a video file. She didn't want to watch, knew she shouldn't, but her thumb hit play anyway. Bombs. Dozens of them. Wired to cell phones, planted in locations Elena recognized. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, train stations, schools. This is your choice, sweetheart, her father said softly. Your conscience or their lives. The moral high ground or mass murder. What's it going to be? Morrison was on his radio. Get bomb squads to the following locations. He rattled off addresses. We need every unit, every resource. You don't have time, her father interrupted. The bombs are on a dead man's switch. If my heart stops, if I'm arrested, if anything happens to me in the next 6 hours, they all go off. Automatically. No way to stop them. Elena stared at him, at the man who'd raised her, who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd read her bedtime stories while planning murders in his head. You'd kill thousands of innocent people, she whispered, to avoid arrest, to protect your empire, to protect you. His voice was firm. Because the moment I'm in custody, everyone I've ever done business with will hunt you, will make you pay for my betrayal. This way you walk away. I disappear. Dante disappears. And you get to live whatever life you want, knowing you saved all those people. Except I'll know you're out there, still running things, still destroying lives. Yes, but alive, powerful, and making sure no one ever touches you. He smiled. That's love, Elena, real love. Not the fairy tale version, the version that burns down the world to keep you safe. Morrison was beside her. We can't let him go, you know that. Whatever happens, thousands of people, Elena said. He's not bluffing. He's never bluffed about anything in his life. Then we evacuate, clear the sites, defuse what we can. In 6 hours? You'll save maybe half of them if you're lucky. She looked at her father. How do I know you'll keep your word? That you won't just trigger them anyway once you're safe? Because I love you. Because despite everything, you're my daughter, and I don't want you living with that guilt. Her father lowered the phone. Let me go, both of us. And I swear on your mother's grave, the woman I had killed, that I'll disappear and never threaten anyone again. You're lying. Probably. But are you willing to bet thousands of lives on it? Elena looked at Morrison, at the agents surrounding them, at the burning helicopter and the shattered windows and the empire crumbling around her, and realized she was exactly where her father had wanted her all along, trapped, with no good choices, just terrible ones. Stand down, she said quietly. What? Morrison stared at her. Elena, you can't. I said stand down, let them go. We have procedures, rules, we can't just. Then thousands of people die and it's on your conscience. Elena's voice was ice. I'm the witness. I'm the one cooperating, and I'm telling you to let them walk. Morrison's jaw clenched. He looked at her father, at the phone in his hand, at the choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Everyone lower your weapons, he said finally. Let them through. Agents protested. Morrison overruled them. One by one, rifles lowered. Her father smiled, walked toward Elena, stopped close enough to touch her face. Smart girl, he said softly. You made the right choice. I made the only choice. There's a difference. Sometimes that's the same thing. He kissed her forehead, gentle, fatherly. I'll be watching over you, always. You won't see me, won't hear from me, but I'll make sure you're safe. I don't want your protection. Too bad. You have it anyway. He stepped back. Take care of my son-in-law. He loves you, you know, in his broken way, maybe the only real thing either of us has ever felt. Then he walked toward the perimeter. Agents parted. Let him through. He disappeared into the darkness beyond the searchlights. Gone.
Morrison was shouting orders. Bomb squads mobilizing, evacuations beginning, chaos everywhere. And Elena stood in the center of it all, numb. She'd lost, completely. Her father was free. Dante would be free once his lawyers got involved, once deals were made, once his own leverage came into play. The empire would continue. The bodies would keep piling up. And she'd save thousands of people by dooming thousands more who'd fall under her father's control in the years to come. There was no winning. There never had been. Morrison touched her arm. "We need to get you out of here, into protective custody while we sort this out." "No." "Elena, I'm done. No custody, no witness protection. I'm not testifying against anyone." She pulled away. "You got nothing tonight. No arrests, no evidence you can use in court. I'm useless to you now." "Your father still has those bombs. He'll deactivate them once he's safe. He always keeps his word about things like that. Twisted sense of honor." Elena laughed. It sounded shattered. "Congratulations, Agent Morrison. You just let one of the most dangerous men in Europe walk away. How does it feel?" Morrison's expression was dark. "Like I made a deal with the devil to save innocent lives, which is probably what he wanted me to feel." He looked at her. Really looked. "What are you going to do now?" Elena had no answer, no plan, no idea what came next. She walked through the garden, past agents securing the scene, past the ruins of her life. Walked into the house, up the stairs, to the bedroom where they'd taken Dante. He was gone. Of course he was. His lawyers had probably been on site within minutes. Bail posted. Released on his own recognizance because men like Dante Ravelli didn't stay in custody. She sat on the bed, their bed, and stared at nothing. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered anyway, had nothing left to lose. "Elena," Dante's voice, "I'm told you let your father go. He gave me no choice." "There's always a choice. You could have let the bombs go off, sacrificed those people to take him down, but you didn't." Pause. "Because you're not like us. Not yet. Maybe never." "Is that why you're calling? To tell me I failed some kind of test?" "I'm calling because I'm leaving, tonight. Going somewhere your FBI friends can't follow. Your father's got it arranged." Another pause. "You should come with me." "Why would I do that?" "Because you have nowhere else to go. Because witness protection is off the table. Because your father's people will hunt you if you're not under his protection. And because..." His voice softened. "Because I meant what I said. I do love you, in my broken, damaged way. And I'd rather spend my life trying to earn your forgiveness than spend it hunting you." Elena closed her eyes. "I can't forgive you. I know, but maybe someday you could tolerate me, work alongside me, build something that's less about revenge and more about..." He trailed off. "I don't know. Something better than what we had." "There is nothing better. Not in your world." "Then help me create one. Use everything you know, everything you've learned, to make the empire less monstrous." "I can't do it alone. Don't want to. But with you," hope in his voice now, dangerous hope. "With you, maybe we could be something other than what our fathers made us." A car pulled up outside, engine idling. "That's your ride," Dante said. 10 minutes. If you're not downstairs, I'll know your answer." He hung up. Elena sat on the bed, phone dead in her hand, and faced the choice she'd been running from since breakfast 5 days ago. Go with Dante. Become part of the empire. Use her position to maybe, make it slightly less evil. Live in wealth and power and constant moral compromise. Or walk away. Truly walk away. No protection, no safety net. Just her, and whatever life she could build from the ashes, knowing her father's people were out there, knowing Dante's enemies would become hers, knowing every day could be her last. Both choices were terrible. Both would destroy her in different ways. But one of them, at least, was hers. Elena stood, walked to the closet, looked at 5 years of expensive clothes, designer labels, silk and cashmere, and all the trappings of wealth built on suffering. She changed into jeans, a simple shirt, boots, grabbed her father's ledger from where she'd hidden it under the mattress. The real one. Not Dante's forgery, but the original. The one she'd taken from the safe. Then she walked downstairs. The car was waiting. Back door open. Dante sat in shadows, watching her. "What's it going to be?" he asked. Elena looked at him, at the man who'd destroyed her, who'd claimed to love her, who'd offered her an empire built on corpses. She walked past the car, kept walking, down the driveway, through the gates, into the Rome night. Behind her, the car door closed. The engine revved. Dante didn't follow. Maybe he understood. Maybe he'd finally accepted that some people couldn't be owned, couldn't be controlled, couldn't be made into monsters no matter how hard you tried. Or maybe he was just letting her run, giving her a head start before the real hunt began. Either way, Elena walked, one foot in front of the other, away from the house, away from the empire, away from everything she'd ever known. She had no plan, no destination, just a ledger full of her father's secrets and the absolute certainty that she'd rather die free than live in chains. Somewhere in the city, her father was watching. Somewhere, Dante was deciding whether to come after her. Somewhere, Morrison was explaining to his superiors how the biggest arrest of his career had slipped through his fingers. But here, on this street, in this moment, Elena Varelli was just a woman walking. Not a wife, not a daughter, not a pawn, just herself. And maybe, somehow, that would be enough. The ledger felt heavy in her bag. She pulled it out, flipped through pages of names and crimes and blood money. Then she pulled out her phone, a new burner, bought from a kiosk on her way out, and took photos. Every page, every name, every transaction. She uploaded them to an encrypted server, set them to auto-release in 72 hours unless she entered a code to stop the timer. Insurance. The same kind her father had used for decades. If he came for her, if Dante came for her, if anyone tried to silence her, the whole world would know their secrets. Mutually assured destruction, the only language monsters understood. Elena smiled. It felt sharp, dangerous. Maybe she was more like her father than she wanted to admit. Maybe you couldn't grow up in that world without some of it staining your soul. But she could choose what to do with that stain, could use those hard lessons for something other than building empires, could burn everything down and maybe build something better from the ashes. She kept walking, into the Rome night, into an uncertain future, free. Finally, terribly, completely free. And somewhere behind her, in a marble house full of ghosts, the empire she'd abandoned began to crack. Elena walked for 3 hours before her legs gave out. She found herself in Trastevere, the old neighborhood where narrow cobblestone streets twisted like veins through ancient buildings. Artists and expats, street musicians and late-night cafes. The kind of Rome tourists didn't usually see. She sat on the edge of a fountain, legs aching, and watched the city live. A couple arguing in Italian, a man playing guitar for coins. Normal life, continuing on while her world had imploded. The ledger sat heavy in her bag. The photos were uploaded, timer set, 72 hours until the world learned everything. Unless she stopped it. Unless she made a different choice. Her phone buzzed. The burner. She'd given the number to no one, which meant someone had tracked her anyway. What? Not a question. A statement of exhaustion. You're sitting by the fountain of the Acqua Paola. Dante's voice. You've been there for 20 minutes, long enough for my people to surround the square. Elena didn't look around, didn't scan for threats. Just kept watching the guitarist, his fingers dancing over strings, making beauty out of wire and wood. What do you want? To talk, face to face. No games this time. No manipulation, just honesty. Pause. There's a cafe across from you. Il Gatto Nero. I'm at the corner table, alone. She should run, should disappear into the maze of streets, use everything Adrienne had taught her to vanish. Except Adrienne had been working for Dante all along, which meant everything she'd taught Elena, he knew she'd do. There was no escape. Had never been. Just the illusion of it. Elena stood, crossed the square, walked into Il Gatto Nero. Dante sat exactly where he'd said. No guards visible. Just him, a cup of espresso, and exhaustion written in the lines of his face. She sat down across from him without being invited. You look terrible, she said. I feel worse. He pushed a second espresso toward her. I ordered for you.
Hope you don't mind. Elena stared at the cup. How do I know you didn't poison it? You don't. But if I wanted you dead, you'd have been dead 3 hours ago when you were walking alone through empty streets. Dante's voice was flat, empty. I'm not here to kill you, Elena. I'm here to say goodbye.
That caught her off guard.
What?
Your father's gone. Disappeared completely. Left me instructions, money, connections, everything I need to run the empire. But he also made something very clear. Dante met her eyes. If I touch you, if I hurt you, if I so much as inconvenience you, he burns everything down. My operations, my assets, everything. He's got a dead man switch set up just like the one he used tonight, and he made sure I know it. Elena's hands curled around the warm cup. So this is what? You telling me I win? No, this is me telling you that you're free, really free. Not because you escaped, but because your father values you more than the empire. Which is, Dante laughed bitterly, which is more than I can say about my relationship with mine. He would have burned me alive if it meant more power. Your father's dead. My father killed him. I know. And I've spent 15 years hating you for being his daughter, using you, manipulating you, trying to make you suffer for his sins. Dante's voice cracked. But the truth is I was never punishing you. I was punishing myself for falling in love with my enemy's daughter, for being weak enough to feel something real in a world that punishes weakness. Elena didn't know what to say to that. Couldn't find words past the exhaustion and grief. I released Maria's daughter, Dante said quietly. The real one. Not the fake evidence Adrian showed you. She's alive. Been in a facility in Switzerland. Comfortable. Well treated. I sent her home yesterday with enough money to start over. Figured, he shrugged, figured it was the least I could do. Marcus is still dead. Yes, he is. I can't undo that, can't undo any of it. Dante stared at his espresso. I've killed a lot of people, Elena. Some deserved it, some didn't. All of them haunt me. But the one that's going to destroy me is you. I'm not dead. No. But the woman I could have loved, really loved, if I'd been someone different, she is. I killed her the moment I said I never loved you over breakfast. Everything after was just her ghost learning to hate me. Elena's throat tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth. Finally. Completely. Dante pulled out an envelope, set it on the table between them. That's everything. Account numbers, passwords, locations of evidence, everything you'd need to destroy the entire empire. Mine, your father's, all of it. She stared at the envelope. Why? Because I'm tired. Tired of being what my father made me. Tired of running an empire built on suffering. Tired of waking up every day knowing I'm going to hurt someone before sunset. He pushed the envelope toward her. Take it. Use it. Burn everything down. Or don't. Keep the photos you uploaded as insurance and live whatever life you want. Either way, I'm done. Done how? Dante smiled. It looked like breaking glass. I'm leaving. Tonight. Going somewhere no one will find me. Somewhere I can't hurt anyone else. Your father taught me how to disappear. Seems fitting I use his lessons to escape what he built. Elena's hand hovered over the envelope. This is a trick. Another manipulation. Probably. I've manipulated you so many times I don't know how to interact with you honestly anymore. But Elena... He reached across, fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. Whether you believe me or not, I need you to know something. The worst thing I ever did wasn't killing people. Wasn't building an empire on blood. It was making you believe you weren't worth loving. Because you are. You were. You always have been. Tears were burning her eyes. She blinked them back, refused to let them fall. You don't get to do this. Don't get to confess and apologize and walk away clean. I'm not walking away clean. I'm walking away broken. There's a difference. Dante stood. The timer on your photos. I assume you set it for 72 hours? She didn't confirm. Didn't need to. Reset it for a week. Give me time to get somewhere remote. Somewhere the fallout won't follow. He pulled out his wallet, left cash on the table for the espressos neither of them had touched. After that, do whatever you want. Expose everything. Send every monster to prison. I'll be too far gone to care. And my father? He'll survive. Men like him always do. But his network will crumble without mine supporting it. Without my resources, he's just an old man with secrets, and secrets die with the people who keep them. Dante walked toward the door, stopped, looked back. I did love you, he said, quietly. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. In my broken, damaged way, I loved you more than I've loved anything. That's why I let you go, why I'm giving you the weapons to destroy me, because if I can't have you, at least I can give you freedom. Then he was gone, disappeared into the Rome night like smoke. Elena sat alone at the table, staring at the envelope, at the power to end everything. She opened it. Page after page of information, bank accounts in 30 countries, names of politicians, judges, police chiefs on the payroll, locations of safe houses, evidence of crimes going back decades. Everything she needed to fulfill her promise to Morrison, to burn it all down. Her phone rang, not the burner. Her old phone, the one from her life as Dante's wife, Morrison's number. She answered. What? Elena, we've been tracking unusual movement. Dante's people evacuating locations, money moving offshore. Someone's cleaning house. Morrison's voice was urgent. What happened? Did he contact you? He's leaving, disappearing. Said he's done with all of it. And you believe him? Elena looked at the envelope. I don't know what I believe anymore. We can still arrest him. We've got enough to hold him for questioning. Not enough for trial, maybe, but enough to make his life difficult. Morrison paused. Unless you give us more. Those photos you uploaded. If you share them now instead of releasing them publicly, you'll bury them, make deals. Let half these monsters walk in exchange for testimony against the other half. Elena's voice was ice. I know how this works. It's the only way the system functions. Then your system is broken. Maybe, but it's better than vigilante justice, better than chaos. Morrison's tone shifted. What are you going to do, Elena? Release those files and watch the world burn? People will die. Governments will fall. Wars might start over some of what's in there. Good. Let them burn. Let it all burn. You don't mean that. But the terrible truth was, part of her did. The part that had been broken and remade in Dante's image. The part that wanted to watch everyone who'd lied to her suffer. I need time, she said finally, to think, to figure out who I am after all this. How much time? A week? Maybe less? She hung up before he could argue. The guitarist across the square was packing up. Night deepening into early morning. Elena sat in the cafe, surrounded by evidence of atrocities, and tried to remember who she'd been before breakfast 5 days ago. That woman felt like a stranger now, someone naive and trusting and hopelessly unprepared for the world she'd been living in. But maybe that woman had had the right idea. Maybe ignorance had been a mercy. Maybe some truths were too heavy to carry. Elena's hands shook as she pulled out her phone, the one with the timer. She opened the app. 72 hours until release. Her thumb hovered over the reset button. She could do what Dante asked, give him a week, let him disappear before the world learned his secrets, or she could let the timer run. 72 hours until every monster in that ledger faced justice, or something like it. Or she could cancel it entirely. Take the power Dante had given her, use it to reshape the empire into something less monstrous. Become exactly what her father had wanted, a queen ruling over ashes and corpses. 3 choices. All terrible. All would define the rest of her life. Elena closed her eyes, breathed, tried to find some core of herself that hadn't been destroyed by revelation after revelation, and heard her mother's voice. Not a memory, a ghost. Maybe just her own mind trying to comfort her, but she heard it anyway. You're stronger than you know, sweetheart. Stronger than your father. Stronger than me. Use that strength to be better than we were. Elena opened her eyes, reset the timer to 7 days. Not because Dante deserved mercy, but because she needed time to make this choice from a place of clarity, not rage. She gathered the papers, put them back in the envelope, walked out of the cafe into the pre-dawn Rome morning. The city was quiet, that perfect stillness before the world wakes up. Elena walked through it like a ghost, heading nowhere in particular, just moving. She found herself at the Tiber, the same river where she'd thrown the fake USB